Hey, Chicago. Welcome back to another Friday edition of Chicago Corner. I am your host, Jerry Vasilatos, and I will be bringing you news from across the 77 neighborhoods and the 50 wards of our city that make it the greatest place to live in the nation because of the people, not the politicians or the police or the crime. Just want to parse that, why we're such a great city. All right, so before we go into our show, by the way, that I apologize for not being with you last week. I was at the Chicago Theater seeing the Joe Rogan show, which was fantastic. And I was just reminded of that as I was playing our show intro, which ends with that beautiful shot of the Chicago Theater. So in the meantime, let me welcome my co-host for the evening, Mr. Ed Heller. Munching on his pizza as he is off to do every night of the week.
It's Pizza Friday, Jerry.
Ed, I'm sure you got a handle over it, but I'm always worried about your cholesterol levels.
I've never had a problem with cholesterol.
Okay.
I'll eat any kind.
Good to know. How you doing tonight?
I'm pretty good. I got a chance to reheat some deep dish pizza I made the weekend before. So that gives me the opportunity to make more pizza tomorrow.
I stopped at Chicago's Pizza on my way home from my gig last night and got a nice piece of stuffed spinach and a piece of thin crust sausage, and it was delicious. And I thought of you because I thought one of these nights we have to figure out how to get some of your pizza over here before I broadcast on a Friday so we can enjoy our pizza together.
Yeah, I think we have to plan ahead on that one.
Definitely.
We kind of have. It's like I have to make we do a pizza night and then I send you home with some.
That sounds like
a good plan. And that way you can have it for the Friday show.
So let's see who's with us in the chat tonight. Wow, we have got 48 comments already before we're even like 2 minutes into the show.
Yeah, I know. They're excited. I think they missed you, Jerry.
Well, I'm excited to be back. I missed everybody, too. We've got Ilhana in the chat. We got Beastmaster X. We got Miguel H. We got Extra Bulla. Hey, Warren. Get your tail down.
Hey, Warren. Welcome back.
Warren shares, I was slacking last week, so I better come with the goods tonight or there'll be HE double hockey sticks to pay. Well, Warren, I want to share with you two of our stories this evening came across my radar from our viewers in the live chat. One is Kathy Powers. And Kathy, as the show starts, I want to thank you for sharing a story we're going to cover tonight. Actually, and the other story came from Twitter from our friend of the show, Reef Breland, who covered a recently broken story in relation to torture victims here in Chicago. And the fact that there is, what was it? What are we going to get to? The police brass will divert. No, that's not it. Where's that story? Oh, yeah. There's a Chicago movement that forces the release of Chicago police torture survivors. Yeah. So we're going to watch a little bit of Reef's video as he reported it on his show this past week. And Reef, if you're out there, I don't know if you are watching tonight, but I want to thank you for sharing that story via social media.
Yeah. So if you guys aren't following Independent News Network, INN, you should definitely subscribe to that channel. They get a lot of, they're like a conglomeration of a whole bunch of independent media people. And they basically set up a platform where they give a lot of independent people another place where they can stream. And Reef has been a huge part of that.
So that's the station that Reef is on right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I came across another news station on YouTube that I shared some media from on Tuesday's Hardlands Media Show. And I'm going to my Facebook page right now because I'm wondering if it's the same network. Let me open it up real quickly and double check. No, I'm sorry. Different news network. But I also want to bring people's attention to another station I think they should pay attention to for national news. And it's news. It's not opinion. It's very objective reporting. Discovered it on YouTube. It's called News Nation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they actually there's a lot of local channels that are affiliated with them now. You can now see them on a lot of the local channels too.
It's so
They're
refreshing
based,
to
yeah,
listen to
they're
newscasters that are reporting the news the way we remember it reported growing up, without
yeah,
opinions.
it's basic. I mean, yeah, I won't say that they're not like unbiased. I mean, but they are basically just reporting the news.
Yeah.
So at the very least, you get more facts than you get opinions on those shows. So at least you have a baseline, at least a general baseline. Regardless of, you still have to question your sources, like everything else. Who is saying what they're reporting? If a news story starts with officials tell us this, okay, are we taking the officials' word for it? Maybe, maybe not.
Well, yeah, it leaves the conversation and the commentary to the viewers, which is what I love about it. And that's why I'm going to try to start referencing news stories from their YouTube channel more when I do national news with Kit, because I'm just tired of all the, let us do the commentary, opinions, and analysis. We're not journalists. I mean, you don't have to agree with us here either. But I don't pretend to be a journalist, and I try to cite everybody whose news stories we source from so that we can basically unwrap the story and then share opinions and conversation on here on what we think about it as people living in Chicago. So I also want to welcome in the live chat, Gene, good to see you. Arturo Medina, thank you. It's good to see you. Art, Dana Fairbanks, Kathy Powers. Let's see who else. Kit is joined in. Hey, Kit, I know you couldn't come in tonight, but I hope everything's working out with what you're taking care of. And Zep Pearl. I don't think I've seen Zep Pearl before. News Nation is the old WGN America. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's before Sinclair bought it out.
It might have been.
Because Sinclair has
see what the timeline was for that. That might have been like what's how brands like sometimes like to cut. Can't talk. The pizza hasn't.
All the pizza sticking to your teeth.
Yeah. Sometimes the companies, they'll take over a smaller news company like WGN, and then you won't know for a while whose content is originated from the company that just took over, or if it's a new thing that WGN came up with before they decided that everything was going to get taken over by something else. Anyway, I'm just babbling so that you can get your video ready to go, Jerry.
Well, you're providing some context, so
And
I was getting the stories up to start sharing with our screen. So let's go into our first story of the evening. As soon as I can get the screen up and shared. There we are. So, our beloved Mayor Lightfoot. You know what just shocks me all the time about Mayor Lightfoot, Ed, is
what is that, Jerry?
Is how just the size of her balls.
You dicks, what the fuck were you thinking? You make some kind of secret agreement with the Italians. You're out there measuring your dicks with the Italians, seeing who's got the biggest dicks. You're out there stroking your dicks over the Columbus statue. My dick is bigger than yours and the Italians. I have the biggest dick in Chicago.
No copyright strike for that, since I'm using a cover song that isn't the original AC/DC music. To you pricks at YouTube who've been giving us copyright strikes all the time for fair use, might I mention. Anyway, yeah, the balls on this woman. Let's go into it. Because there's a related story that I think is very, very ironic, given the fact Blog Club Chicago reported on this, and then the other story we're going to follow up with right next to each other. Now, this comes to us from Kelly Bauer at Blog Club Chicago. Chicago faces a $130 million budget gap, Lightfoot says, and city's forecast budget will have a 2.5% property tax hike. City officials are looking for ways to find savings to balance the 2023 budget, according to the mayor's office. Oh. Controversial West Side Cop Academy will have mock neighborhood for training with a price tag of $129 million. $130 million budget gap, $129 million police academy. Indeed. Let me get to Kelly's story, though, before we go into the police academy.
Oh, hang on, Jerry. I think we definitely got to use this first.
Hinky. Well, what does that mean, Vince? Hinky.
Oh, strange.
Weird. Well, don't you say strange or weird. I mean, hinky, that has no meaning.
We say hinky.
I don't want you guys using words when I mean got no meaning.
Good old Tommy Lee. All right, so, boy, oh boy. She balanced the budget last year, I think, with the COVID funds. But now the city is facing a nearly $130 million budget gap for the next fiscal year. But that's a huge improvement from other pandemic years, officials announced Wednesday. That's their positive spin on the story. City officials expect there to be a $127.9 million budget gap in fiscal year 2023, significantly down from a budget gap of $733 million for fiscal year 2022 and $1.2 billion from the year before. The new budget predicts Chicago will continue to see growth in revenue after it fell during the earlier years of the pandemic, according to a mayor's office news release. But it also predicts expenditures will rise by about $228 million due to personnel costs, pension obligations, and contractual services. Wait, I thought that Bally's casino deposit was supposed to go towards the pension obligations. As I understood it, as it was reported about a month ago, that's where the deposit was said to have gone to. Anyway, I digress. We're now living within our means and have started on the true road to financial stability and recovery, Lightfoot said at a Wednesday news conference. City officials are looking for ways to find a savings to balance the 2023 budget, according to the mayor's office. Do you like the way I'm shifting back and forth, Ed?
Mm-hmm.
They'll look first internally.
Hey, Jerry, why are you switching back to that other story? What could that possibly have to do with a $128 million budget gap?
It's a good question, and it comes down to priorities, which we'll get to. City officials are looking for ways to find savings to balance the 2023 budget, according to the mayor's office. They'll look first internally to City Hall agencies to see where money can be saved, Lightfoot said. Those measures will be announced in the fall. The city will raise property taxes by more than $42 million, but that's less than expected, Lightfoot said. More gilding of the lily.
Raise taxes for who?
The city will raise property tax. Okay. In Chicago, property taxes are tied to the consumer price index, which means that the tax rate changes with inflation. Inflation is at its highest point in years, although you wouldn't know it to hear Kamala Harris and Joe Biden on the national circuit propagandizing us, which means property taxes would normally go up. The city could calculate residents' property tax using a consumer price index of 8.5% based on inflation or 5% based on the city's cap for the consumer price index. Instead, the city will seek to give residents a break by using a consumer price index of 2.5% to determine the residents' property tax, Lightfoot said. If 2021 was our pandemic budget and 2022 was our recovery budget, this one is our stability budget, Lightfoot said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. So in theory, our property taxes will go down after they got realigned by Fritz into the stratosphere. So it's like Chicago's version of the gas price hike, right? They jacked up, they let the oil refiners jack up the prices of gasoline, and then they just slowly trickle them back downward.
And act like they're doing something.
It's I don't know, what do you call that?
Very slick, Ed.
Something like that.
In other words, a huge tax hike across the board, says Art. Ilhanner, hey, there's a polished turd. You're welcome. Oh, boy. The city's been working on fulfilling its pension obligations, paying down debt, and reducing delay tactics for payments and union negotiations, Lightfoot said. Part of that, the city received $40 million, there we go, from Bally's for its upcoming casino and has put it all towards Chicago's annual required pension contribution, according to the mayor's office. In recent years, the city's also increased investments in violence prevention, combating climate change, mental health funding, and in building affordable housing, Lightfoot said. Now, very, very interesting, she mentions about the investments in mental health funding, okay? And the violence prevention investment is probably going to be more about this $130 million police training facility, because I was doing some research, and I think the amount of money that went into mental health funding was like, I don't know, like a couple $1 million. And we'll get to that story later. I'm transitioning everything tonight, Ed. Got it all
connected.
It's all connected. It's all part of the plan. All right. So, yeah, that's what she says. The city's increased investments in violence prevention, combating climate change, mental health funding, and in building affordable housing. Like, she's talking about building affordable housing, right? While they are spending $129 million on this new police academy, and she panders about investing in affordable housing. I want to bring up this tweet I came across. The controversial Westside Police Academy will have mock neighborhood for training, raising the total cost of the project to $128 million. Here's what it will look like. Online Nobody says down here, they're building fake neighborhoods to practice raiding real neighborhoods where poor people of color live instead of investing it in those poor neighborhoods. Disgusting and evil. You know, for all the money that's going into this cop academy that doesn't go into neighborhoods, I mean, there are so many like empty demilitarized blocks across the city that look like demilitarized zones that kind of resemble what they're building here. And while she's talking about
they don't have to build one. They could just take part of the city that was basically abandoned because of all the houses that got foreclosed on and then never resold or filled or anything. I mean, there's areas in the city where development needs to happen, and there are already rundown buildings and things where they could basically just set up some police tape and then play pretend cop. But this is all such a huge, huge waste of money.
Absolutely. And, you know, I thought I had saved a tweet that it doesn't look like I did, as I'm jumping through cycling Twitter things here. But a point that someone else had made on Twitter was that we're spending money on this pretend neighborhood as opposed to actually finding affordable housing for homeless people. That's the priority. This here, what we're looking at, as I'm pointing, is what Lightfoot considers her investment in violence prevention. Spending more money on the police in this police academy instead of putting money into neighborhoods, mental health funding.
And you may recall from previous episodes of Chicago Corner that this was Lori Lightfoot's alternative to youth community centers.
Yes.
We talked about this. I think Jamal Green came on and talked to us about this because he had a center that he was trying to get going, and they wouldn't even sell him the building.
No,
and it's just selfish.
He's been promoting that for years, Ed, and practically like thrown out of Lightfoot's office. While in the meantime, I think after he introduced that proposal with the youth centers and getting that property is when she rolled out this app for young people that was supposed to help them find jobs. And it's like the amount of jobs that were available on the app were laughable as compared with the amount of youth across Chicago's neighborhoods. It was just embarrassing, but it was her little Band-Aid fix. All right. So I want to thank Kathy for the $1 super chat. It's time for the clowns to dance. There you go, Kathy. Hope that gave you your fix. Yep, she needed her troll fix. We love you, Kathy. the Chon has nothing up her kilt. Leadfoot Chon. All right, so we talked about the $130 million budget gap And clearly, where Lightfoot sees the priority is she could easily cover that $130 million, pulling the plug on, well, maybe not the whole thing, but adding to it, because the total cost of the West Side Cop Academy has now risen to $129 million. The project was originally $33 million. Let me get into the article as reported by Jennifer Bamberg over at Blockloan. Controversial West Side Cop Academy will have mock neighborhood for training. Here's what it will look like. Construction on the $33 million tactical scenario village, like they don't have those in every neighborhood of the city. But you know what it is, Ed? They want to be able to walk from their barracks over to the little training village. You know, you'd almost think that the cops think that they are, I don't know, working on a movie set.
Yeah. I like that transition you did there, Jerry.
Seriously. Is, for all intents and purposes, a pretend movie set that they're building for them. Okay?
In fact, why should it cost us $130 million? Why don't they just let the TV shows that are shooting foot the bill for this set, since they're probably going to want to shoot on it anyway?
There are empty neighborhoods across the city of Chicago with empty buildings where predators are kidnapping hookers, chaining them to radiators and sexually assaulting them. Okay, there are empty buildings all over the city that could be repurposed for this bullshit here that's going to cost us $129 million. So they have the luxury of walking from their little academy, their police academy, right? Remember that joke of a movie? To their little training village over
I actually liked the first one.
I never saw
the second one wasn't terrible, but how many did they make? Like 6 or 7 police academy movies?
Too many, with budgets that could have gone towards much better movies. But that's another conversation.
I mean, look, you got to pay Steve Guttenberg his salary. You know, that guy's worth every penny.
Yeah, Gene.
Michael Winslow, highly underrated.
No, Gene, they can't build houses for the homeless. They've got to build this bullshit. All right. It will include a fake city block,
a
story burn tower, a car crash rescue area, and other settings and props to simulate real-life emergencies.
You know, if they would just make them leave their damn uniform cams on, they could do virtual versions of these things, because all this stuff happens already. It could be basically a learning experience. You know, they could spend less money on a VR simulation. Actually,
that's true. Yeah, police and firefighters will conduct training.
You know what? Give them a holodeck. Just give those jerks a little holodeck. I don't know, 100 by 100 meters. A couple Google VR glasses. To spend maybe $500,000, right?
You think that's all a holodeck with VR training would cost?
I don't know.
I think the contractor
$130 million sounds like a lot of money.
I think the contractor would probably double that. But let me get back into the article. Construction on so the controversial Cop Academy on the West Side, raising the total cost of the project to $128 million. Construction on the $33 million state-of-the-art tactical scenario village used for police and fire training will include the fake city block, the burn tower, blah, blah, blah. Construction is scheduled to begin this summer. Construction on phase 1 of the training campus at 4301 West Chicago Avenue is nearly complete and includes a building with classrooms, administrative offices, and an auditorium. I'm telling you, Ed, if they cut down on their donut and coffee diet, they wouldn't need to be able to just walk over to the little training set. They could actually go to real neighborhoods. This is all about comfort for them, as far as I'm concerned. Because here's the thing. I understand that there's probably going to want to be a level of control over the burn tower and the scenarios in this phony neighborhood that they're going to spend an extra $33 million on. But again, you're going to tell me that this police academy isn't near a neighborhood that probably has vacant, abandoned buildings that they could do the same thing at? When I used to work as a location assistant, on films and TV here in Chicago, I was tasked with going out to neighborhoods to find specific locations that fit a script so that the TV production wouldn't have to spend millions of dollars building something. And you know what, Ed? I always found neighborhoods and locations that fit the story. So this is bullshit. They could very, very easily find a neighborhood that could be probably retrofitted for, I don't know, like maybe a quarter or a sixth of the price of what this $33 million training town is going to be on their police academy. So,
well, and also, I mean, don't they already have? They don't have a training facility that already exists to do stuff like this.
Let me read the article and see if there is a reference to that. Renderings for the tactical village show a typical neighborhood block in Chicago, including multiple 2 and 3 flat residential buildings complete with fences, curbs, sidewalks, and yards. Yeah, where can't you find that within a stone's throw? Each building will have back stairways, porches, and a 2-car garage. One of the homes will have a basement. An alley with mock dumpsters will separate those buildings from a multi-story structure with mock shops and businesses on the ground floor with apartments above. I'm telling you, Ed, as a TV and film professional, I could do this for like literally probably a quarter of the budget in an existing neighborhood. We dress the empty buildings. Plus, if they're always training at this facility, these backyards and staircases and porches and everything, it's always going to be the same. If they're training around something specific and you know when they're sent out into the field, every neighborhood is different. This is just it's so short-sighted and such a waste. The $33 million price tag for the mini-city scenario village is in addition to the $95 million cost of the rest of the joint public safety training campus, bringing the total cost of the project to $128 million.
This is such a crock of shit.
Thank you. The Public Building Commission increased the budget for this portion of the project from 20 to 33 million in September of 2021 without community input or opposition. That is pretty much standard operating procedure here in the city. There is no community input on any goddamn thing that this horror of a human being known as Lori Lightfoot approves regularly everywhere, whether it's NASCAR, whether it's figuring out where she's going to find money to keep the Bears at Soldier Field, whatever it is. The casinos. She does not give a goddamn about any kind of community input. All right. Here's some more renderings of the fake Chicago campus. How about that? I mean, God, it looks like a simulation. Despite facing strong opposition from activists.
Seriously, use the freaking renderings and just do a VR simulation. These guys aren't going to get anything out of these so-called interactive, whatever the hell they are, training sites. That's not where I see the problem is with training officers. The problem is training them in how to de-escalate situations, not how to duck behind a building.
$33 million for that. And it doesn't even look real. Not that they should spend more money on making it look real, but despite facing strong opposition from activists and organizations like No Cop Academy, when it was announced 5 years ago, City Council approved plans for the new... So we got City Council to blame also. City Council approved plans for the new West Side Cop and Fire Academy in 2019. Oh, well, you know who... Okay, so I just opened up that particular bit of news so we can see who was behind that. There we go. They approved it when Rahm was still mayor. Awesome. Instead of pouring more money into the police budget, activists wanted City Hall to spend the money on housing, social services, and schools. What, Ed? To address the root causes of violence. Where do we hear about the root causes of violence, Ed?
There's this really cool channel on YouTube And I think, what was it called? Chicago something.
Oh, what do those guys know? All right. So those organizers are now drawing parallels between Chicago's Scenario Village and the $90 million safety training center set to begin construction in Atlanta, which is facing fierce public opposition. Since the approval of the plan, organizers from No Cop Academy have continued to protest surveillance and over-policing, and No Cop Academy organizer Sidlali Perez. The reason that so many people got involved in this campaign, and not just West Garfield Park, is because of the historic disinvestment of our neighborhoods on the west and south sides. Here's a picture of the training campus under construction. It's less than 7 miles from the loop. Destiny Bell, another organizer with No Cop Academy, has struggled to find housing for more than a year. To find out that they're building a scenario village when there are thousands of people homeless with nowhere to go, it's sickening, she said. Hear, hear. She said the Cop and Fire Academy will bring hundreds more police officers to the west side. We're going to start to feel like we're being militarized. We shouldn't feel like that in our own homes. It probably will make people want to move out of their neighborhoods, Bell said. I wonder if that's all part of the plan as far as it relates to gentrification. Model towns and neighborhoods have been used as training methods by the police and military at least since the 60s, said policing scholar Stuart Schrader. This is one of the clear ways that military training and operations have influenced police training, Schrader wrote in an email. It's no coincidence that in the wake of wars, including both Vietnam and Iraq, we see increasing adoption of this sort of training for police. A militarized police force. Them and us is how they look at it.
Yeah, that's a problem. You're not supposed to train a public safety force or public safety. I don't know if you call them force. You're not supposed to train them to treat the citizens as the enemy.
Well, that's routinely how the police look at Chicagoans, though, Ed.
It's a thing we need to. It's a thing we need to change. What is this monstrosity of an expensive training facility going to do to change that? I don't think that's money well spent.
Gene says no one will give them the finger there, and yes, it's cop Disneyland. I'm telling you, it's like the cops in Chicago, they're playing on their little movie set while the cops in Uvalde get dressed up like cowboys, right? Their little uniforms and act like they're tough shit while they let kids die in classrooms. It's just all fun and games, man.
I'm a little bit of a fan of watching anime from time to time, and the thing that popped into my head immediately was a show called My Hero Academia. These kids are like learning. They're training in an academy to learn how to be good superheroes. And they basically they set up all these obstacle courses or those types of things so that they can train in an environment which is simulation for the real world.
Yeah, that's it's a fantasy. Right.
It's a fantasy show, and this project in Chicago is a fantasy. Period.
JR shares it won't change. It's the way the feds are trained. And Ilhan shares, thank you, Joe Biden, for passing the crime bill that militarized our police force with federal dollars. All right.
Hey, somebody's seen my keys. I'm still looking for my keys.
He's, they're limited. They're more and more limiting his public appearances.
Listen, Jack. I can wait. What was I doing?
Kathy asks if the villains get paid scale. All right, back to the article. Now, officials have defended the academy, saying it will play an important role in training officers and recruits, so they're better able to respond to emergencies. The village is part of that training, officials said. I think that this should have been edited to say officials have defended the academy, saying it will play an important role in training officers and recruits, so they're better able to escalate emergencies. That's what the article should have said, right?
Yeah,
because there's no de-escalation involved in this de-escalation training. The campus will allow the police.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jerry. Go ahead.
The campus will allow the police department to strengthen our collaboration with fellow public safety partners that they're not listening to and continue for $3 million. This facility will also provide the police department with the tools and resources needed for modern 21st century policing based on national. What other tools and resources do they need beyond the cameras that they're now wearing that should be streamed to a public server for quick and easy access after they've been reviewed so that they can be reviewed by the citizens who are paying their salaries?
What they really need is to basically tag along in actual situations with people who know how to actually respond to these situations so they can learn from their mentors.
I love
like an apprenticeship.
I love what Gene just shared, because you know what, Gene? I wouldn't put it past them. The bad guy actors will be white men in blackface wearing hoodies.
No, they or even worse, they would probably put little ads out on Craigslist for minimum wage.
Yeah.
And then some poor schlub will end up in a simulation and end up getting fired at.
Yeah. What size bulletproof? I'm sorry. What jacket size do you wear? 40 regular. Let's wait. This isn't a jacket.
Those are blanks.
All right.
Right?
So to your question earlier, well, paintballs maybe even. Police and fire personnel currently train at 7 different locations. Ed, they currently train at 7 different locations throughout Chicago's city limits.
Okay, they don't need anymore.
Including a vacant Chicago public school in South Shore that the city leases for $1 a year from the Board of Education. And they won't give Jamal Green that empty high school to turn into a youth center, a youth training facility for the same amount of money.
I know I use this already, but
I'll up the ante, Ed.
This is such a crock of shit.
The police also train in a residential building called a Safe Entry Training Home across the street from Anjanette Young's residence. Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Across the street from the main police academy at 1300 West Jackson Boulevard. Each of the, sorry, I mean, it was just too easy to drop that in there. The Safe Entry Training Home in a residential building called a Safe Entry Training Home. Each of the 7 training locations are slated to close once the new campus opens.
Yeah, wasn't the people who killed her getting federally prosecuted right now?
Ed, they don't have to spend this the $130 million that she's short.
Yeah.
Is you use the
sorry to get sidetracked, but yeah, it's a waste of money,
right? You use the existing facilities that they're shutting down for this $129 million new facility at the site of the academy. Budget problem solved. No property tax hike. That's what this bitch's priorities are. Sorry, I said it. She is. I used to call Rahm Emanuel a bitch too. Okay, it's not a gender-based slur. In my estimation.
You know, I mean, except for the fact that it's actually the definition is a female dog. But yes,
well, Rahm was
in the context of is. What he's saying is he's an equal opportunity
offender
user of the word.
Yes, I'm an equal opportunity offender, much to the chagrin of my mom and dad, who are probably watching, and I'll hear about this later. Each of the 7 training locations are slated to close once the new campus opens. Construction on the mock tactical buildings is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2022. The mini-city is being designed and constructed by a joint venture between construction companies Berglund and Brown and Moman. The contractors did not respond to Block Club's request for comment. You know what I forgot to do before the show, Ed? I forgot to go to Illinois Sunshine and see which political representatives Berglund and Brown and Moman contribute to, because I wonder if there might be a connection there. to this contract for these facilities that we don't need when we have 7 other training locations being abandoned. The residential style buildings will not have water or gas service, and the interiors will be stage sets. Elizabeth Scanlon, Deputy Man. I could tear my hair out, and I see these over when I used to be over at CineSpace Studios. This is what they had in the sound stages. And you know what? They cost much less too, I'll tell you. These kind of what we're seeing here, without even the benefit of windows or looking real, does not cost $33 million. Those kind of facades. I'm sorry. No, not what I know what it costs to do film set facades inside studios that actually look real. All right, let me wrap up the article. Where was I? These buildings are intended to be used for tactical maneuvers and are intended to give simulation for practice within real-life situations. They are simulations. They are there to provide practice. They are actually better described as structures or even props. These are not even complete buildings. Besides the neighborhood block part of the village, there will be a 6-story burn tower, a multi-story mixed-use live fire building. How many fire stations have we gone to where we see like a burn tower in the back with the staircase that the fire department will normally train on, I guess more for exercise. I assumed that some of those are burn towers. I don't know. A multi-storied mixed-use live fire building, a hazmat transportation area, a rail prop area, a car crash rescue area, and a driver training course. The 2-story technical rescue prop is designed to resemble a collapsed parking structure or train station. The rescue prop will have a series of angled and partially broken slabs of concrete with sacrificial panels meant to be removed and put back in place. The prop will have a series of vaults and pipes to create a confined space training opportunities for fire department cadets and other first responders. The prop will also serve as a training scenario for parked garage incidents, confined spaces, trench rescue, and collapsed building rescue. Current and future firefighters will train in live fire commercial training tower meant to simulate a high-rise and low-rise scenarios, such as putting out a blaze in an office building, warehouse, hotel, retail, or industrial building. Mounted to the top of the structure will be heavy-duty bomb-proof anchors for tying off ropes for rappelling and other training exercises. Okay, I'm going to say this, okay? I'm going to surprise you with this, Ed. This to train firefighters makes sense.
And I'm gonna push back on that, Jerry, because the firefighters already have a training center. In fact, one of them is located at the spot where the Great Chicago Fire started.
Oh, that's right. Off of Clinton. Yeah. Okay.
Pegleg does not stop hassling me about that.
So
he's like, dude, get that stupid thing off of my ghost farm.
So as I'm looking at this photo, that's with the assumption that there are not mock training structures like this that they can set on fire, but that the facility over on Clinton downtown has a burn tower like this.
I'm sorry, were you asking me a question? I'm looking.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify what you said. The training facility down on Clinton has a burn tower like this.
Like that, I don't know.
Okay.
But I mean, it's not uncommon for them to have buildings or abandoned homes and other types of things that they're using for training. So, this is superfluous.
Along with the seven other facilities that are being shut down, I look at this and I'm like, okay, maybe something like this makes sense, not for $33 million and not with the rest of the neighborhood for the cops to run around with and play cops and robbers. But to your point that the facility down on Clinton plus this is a controlled fire. I mean, they can just turn the fire on or off. What would probably make more sense, finding abandoned buildings that are ready to be razed and setting those on fire. Get a twofer, train the fire department and get rid of the building. I don't know. There will also be a dedicated area for training on how to respond to car crashes and provide emergency medical care. All right, we've gone through the feckless nature of this $129 expense when Chicago faces a $130 million budget gap. I think I've made my point.
No, I'm just getting warmed up.
Damn straight. All right, so let's go into our next stories after this. And actually, let me go into the live chat. Let's see what some of our viewers are sharing. Boy, oh boy, a lot of comments.
Yes.
Going back to what Gene said about the bad guy actors, white men in blackface wearing hoodies. Police only spend 8 hours on de-escalation training and over 100 hours on weapons training in police academies.
Yeah, you gotta flip that.
Yeah. Yeah, but a new donut shop opened, so they need a training facility near it.
Can't we just open more donut shops and just do less cop stuff?
Gene's got an idea. We need to come up with a name for Fake Town. All contributions, all suggestions are welcome to be shared in the chat. Police academies have to follow a standard training regimen in order to get federal funding. His bitch copyright. Illinois Sunshine, the name of a strain of weed. It might be art, but it's also a website where you can look up companies and donors in the state of Illinois and see who they're making their political donations to. I think it's illinoissunshine.org. And thereby you can kind of like connect the dots with why certain companies are getting these big multi-million-dollar contracts by virtue of the fact that they made a contribution to such and such candidate. Or you know this, you worked in Ed Burke's office. Let's see here. JR shares, there's always money to spend on stalking and killing people, tear gassing and population control across the country to train new feds how to kill for tax evasion, but not for teaching children. Yep. You wouldn't want a more educated electorate that would be better equipped intellectually to find the right candidates to vote these other fucking clowns out of office.
Okay, we got a couple suggestions for the name of the cop academy, Fake Town.
I just saw one. Führerbunker. Führerbunker, that's a good one.
Okay, we got Gene says Illinois shall we call it the polished turd? Speaking of polished turds, the double beam. Doesn't it look like a polished turd?
Two polished turds.
Two polished turds? Well, and Lori wants two. I'm just saying.
Speaking of movie sets that the police like to play on, Ed, this came across my radar by way of CWB Chicago, which is another great website reporting on corruption from our officials as well as law enforcement. Let me open up the story on my browser, though, so I can read. I just thought it was so funny when I saw this big, training facility set being built for the cops, and then I came across this. Just more waste.
There we go. Oh, we got more names. Kathy Power says Con Town.
Con Town, yeah. Sean or Con?
Well, it's short for leprechaun, so.
Right, a con, yeah. Okay, so here's where our priorities are going now with law enforcement while they build the $33 million set for them to play cops and robbers on. Chicago police brass will divert cops from neighborhoods to secure film sets. Emails say. Now, once again, as someone who used to work in the film industry, still works, just not as active as I'd like to be, you hire security on sets. You do need the police to help manage traffic control. But when this article tells me that they're diverting cops from neighborhood patrols to secure film sets, emails say that's what you have private security for. You use private security to secure the film sets. You use police support in traffic control situations in neighborhoods that you've got a location permit to film in. You don't use police to secure film sets. So,
and who's authorizing that transfer? Is it Lightfoot doing that, or is it someone in the police department doing that?
Let's get into it as I open up the article. This comes from CWB Chicago. It's uncredited. Days after someone threw a suspected explosive device onto a downtown film set, at least 2 police commanders are being ordered to take cops from patrol duties to sit on TV and movie locations Friday and Saturday, according to CPD emails shared with CWB Chicago. So someone threw a suspected explosive device. So isn't it interesting what the response and priority is? It was a suspected explosive device. It wasn't even a real explosive device. Okay. Could have been worse, but one of the affected districts, which is in charge of patrolling the loop and surrounding areas, scheduled to have dangerously low staffing Friday evening before the order was issued, with sergeants and 6 beat cops scheduled for patrol duties. CPD First Department Superintendent Eric Carter.
First Deputy.
First Deputy. Sorry, thank you. First Deputy Superintendent Eric Carter. When I say First Department? Yeah, First Deputy. Ordered the changes Thursday in the wake of an incident on a film set in the West Loop Monday night around 10:20 p.m. A man lit an object and threw it towards a set where Justified was reportedly filming. Police said the object did not explode and no injuries were reported.
Okay. All right. So now we know.
I got to refill my drink while you go.
So now we know it was CPD First Deputy Superintendent Eric Carter who ordered these cops to divert from their patrols. And the reason I had brought that up earlier is because who is always saying they don't have enough police? The police. And so what do? They create a crisis where they don't have enough police.
The only thing that could have made this article like really hit it home, Ed, was if they had assigned the police to the set of Chicago PD. That would have made it an extremely delicious story, but that's not the case. It was the TV show Justified, of which I have I don't even know what that's about. All right. Okay, so a second source said CPD resources are being diverted largely because the production companies have been unable to find enough off-duty cops to handle the work. Do you know how much money off-duty cops make on security for films and TV sets, Ed? It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I'm surprised they can't find enough off-duty cops.
I mean,
the city requires.
If they're like first year like cadets or early career cops, they might think that they need to work some overtime as security on movie sets because I don't know, their starting salary is like $50K or something like that, which for some people is good money, and for cops who maybe want those crazy Ferraris in their off-duty hours, that might not be enough.
We're getting some great suggestions in the chat. Gene, did you put this on Bacontown? Duncan Academy.
Duncan Academy.
I love that. The town to nowhere. All right, getting back to the article. The city requires police supervision for some filming activities. That supervision usually comes through a city program that lets studios hire uniformed cops on their days off, but the source said fewer cops are volunteering, and that's putting productions in a bind. A police spokesperson did not answer directly when asked why police resources were being sent to the sets. Okay, so I understand, not enough off-duty cops are taking these security positions, but that's not for the taxpayers or the police department's decision to start diverting cops who are actually needed on the streets to serve and protect in the neighborhoods, in the surrounding neighborhoods. So, quote, the Chicago Police Department works closely with the city's film and television community to provide safety and security for the production crews, as well as the communities in which they film, the spokesperson said in a written statement. Carter directed the Central 1st District Commander to divert 2 cops from downtown patrol work to sit in a marked squad car on a set from 1 p.m. Friday to 1 a.m. Saturday. He ordered the commander to send another cop with another marked vehicle to sit at another filming location from 8 p.m. Friday to 8 a.m. Saturday, all because some asshole threw what they thought was a incendiary device, a lit object that was thrown towards a set that was a dud. That's why all this is now happening. Like it's going to happen again. Right? Like it hasn't been reported, other security on the set might be a little bit more conscious of keeping people away, but now we've got to divert all the police that need to be in other places.
We don't even know if this was just some setup. They're like, hey man, just create some improvised thing, throw some duct tape around it and throw it on the movie set and let somebody capture it with their mobile phone, and let's make it a reason so that we have to have more cops over there.
Yeah. Carter directed the Central 1st District Commander to divert 2 cops. Okay, I mentioned from 8 p.m. Friday to 8 a.m. Saturday. Also being told to give up cops for movie set security is the Near West 12th District Commander. Carter told her to send 2 cops in a marked car to sit at a different movie set from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Friday. She must send 2 more cops to sit in a marked car at a Chicago fire set starting at 2 p.m. Friday. And another one of her cops will be sitting in a patrol car from noon to 7 p.m. at a Power Book 4 Force filming location. Near West patrol officers handle calls in neighborhoods like the West Loop, Pilsen, Little Italy, and United Center. CW Chicago received a copy of Friday evening's schedule for the Central District. It shows only 4 sergeants and 6 beat cops are scheduled to be on patrol. There are 12 more cops scheduled to be on the set.
Street.
I'm sorry. There are 12 more cops scheduled to be on the street, but they are all assigned to fixed posts and won't be available to handle calls unless changes are made. Something's rotten in the city of Chicago, Ed. All right, so let me get to our next story. Let me set this up. Let me close my other windows so I don't have...
we got
how much, do I look all right on that end? I don't have any buffering issues, do I?
A little bit. Bit.
Damn it.
It's been mostly good during the live stream. It wasn't too bad. It's
probably
just, when you press like 5 buttons at the same time, then it kind of slows down. And let's see. Let's check the chat and see. We got more names for the Cop Academy town.
The next story.
Yeah, we got Ilhanar says Hoghovel. Gene says Fuzzville.
That's a good one.
Fuzzville. I like Fuzzville. That's fun. Okay, who said did Ilhanar come up with Oinkerville? I wasn't. No, wait, that was Ilhanar. Okay. And okay. Flavor improving town? No, they don't get to call it flavor improving town.
No. We need to trademark that. You need to trademark that.
No. I know Reef from INN was telling me, we got merch now too. We got mugs. I said, yeah, but they're not flavor improving mugs.
All right, I got the next story set up here. I'm going to start with going into the time machine to September of 2021. Can we pull that down? When it was reported, and I do believe I recall we were reporting on this, I actually recognize the image of this article. This came September of 2021 via Justin Lawrence. Chicago rolls out mental health emergency teams to reduce police encounters with people in crisis. The Crisis Assistant Response and Engagement Program will create teams focused on de-escalating an emergency and providing a follow-up treatment. Now, since that time, that program has been implemented. Is that what I said? Sorry.
Close enough.
But the program is finding success and limitations. This comes to us from Governing the Future of States and Localities, as reported by Stephanie Casanova and Robert McCoppin of the Chicago Tribune. The pilot mental health program launched last fall in the city and region has helped many people, but restrictions on availability and a lack of providers the teams are able to work with has reduced its effectiveness. A woman called 911. A woman called 911, worried her friend might commit suicide after seeing a concerning photo on social media and thinking she may have slit her wrist. When a mental health response team arrived at the friend's home on Chicago's South Side last month, As part of the new city effort, the team's members were able to get the woman to talk to the team. The woman told them her daughter had died and her partner had left her. She didn't want to die, but she had been trying to get help for so long, and different places that she called had given her the runaround, said Gabrielle Mitchell, a mental health clinician with the response team, which now goes out on some Chicago 911 calls. She really just wanted someone to come to talk to her. In the weeks after the mental health team met the woman, she has set up a job interview, and Mitchell has talked to her about going to counseling once she's employed. The city's crisis assistance program, the city's crisis assistant response and engagement, or the acronym CARE, pilot program launched last fall, and some city officials and team members responding to calls say they've been able to help many people they've come in contact with, but the program has been limited in many ways, from the amount of days and hours the teams are out to a lack of mental health providers and the teams are able to work with to get people the help they need, team members said. Okay. And community organizers and aldermen who have pushed for a non-police mental health response model over the last few years say the way the program has been designed is not what they had in mind. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, so far they're saying the problems are basically they don't have enough hours and they don't have enough personnel to do it. That seems like a solvable problem.
It would be if they had more money to put into it.
I wonder where there's way too much money going in the city budget that could be diverted into this program.
I'm looking it up. I had it up earlier today. Now, of course, I can't find it. I think the budget that I had seen for this program was like $3 million or something.
Yeah, that's a drop in the bucket compared to other stuff in the city budget.
Of course it is. But I want to be precise though. I don't want to just estimate and then be wrong later. Let me quickly look that up. Why don't you see if there are any other comments in the chat that are worth sharing?
Okay. All right, where do we go? Oh, okay. More names for the Cop Academy. Big D Academy. Okay. We don't have any more. Okay. Yes. Eleanor says, put the candle back. Yes, we know that movie very well.
All right, I found it. It was actually in the older September 2021 article. The pilot was created through the 2021 budget process with an initial $3.5 million investment. That's where I got that number from the Block Club Chicago article.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the governing article where they're talking about the fact that the program is not working the way that they conceived of it, the alderman. It's not, the program has been designed, the way the program has been designed is not what they had in mind. Police have taken a lead in the CARE program when they should not be involved at all in matters that are a public health issue. Some said. Regionally, other police departments outside Chicago have also launched programs to address mental illness through treatment. Those programs don't have a mental health professional in the same vehicle as an officer like the Chicago program does, but police and social workers are working together to connect people to treatment where they might have entered into the criminal justice system in the past. Connecting patients and resources. I'm going to take this down. On a recent Thursday morning in their, do you have something you want to share while you're reflecting the light from my broadcast here, making my face look dark? He just doesn't give a shit. On a recent Thursday morning in their office at a Chicago fire station in the South Loop, the teams of paramedics, mental health clinicians, and officers prepared to go out in the vans for their shift. The three teams respond to calls Monday to Fridays from 10:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. The team discussed the case of a woman who doesn't have a home or support system in Chicago and might need to get connected with the National Alliance for Mental Illness or a psychiatric hospital for services. While you're trying to manage covering the bases, I'm trying to manage my resources, said Tiffany Patton Burnside, who supervises the clinicians for the Chicago Department of Public Health. She reminded the team to look into transferring the woman's case to other organizations that can continue to help her. I just need y'all not to get so invested that ultimately you're missing out on the next person that you can give this much passion to, Patton Burnside said. The briefing is part of their morning routine. Afterward, the team members grab their equipment and some clothes and shoes they give out to people in need and headed out in 3 vans. The type of calls the teams respond to differ based on the neighborhoods. The clinician said. Jennifer Garas, a clinician who primarily works in Uptown and Lakeview, said their team gets calls from mental health disturbances and calls from community partner agencies who need help taking a patient to the hospital. People also sometimes call when they are having suicidal thoughts or a psychotic episode and need treatment or hospitalization, Garas said. Garas and her team have also been able to help just by being at the right place at the right time. One day, the team stopped in the 19th District Police Station for lunch. As they were eating, a trans woman walked into the station asking police to call an ambulance, Garas said. She felt like somebody was trying to poison her. She was very paranoid, thought people were following her, Garas said. My officer heard it and said, wait, what's going on? And so we went out there, and so we were able to engage with her. Garas talked to the woman privately and learned she'd just gotten out of the hospital and was already connected with Thresholds, a mental health organization. Garas connected her with a nearby Thresholds living room center where she was able to get peer support and avoid hospitalization. When we went back the next day to follow up with her, she was doing much better, Garas said. She said that was exactly what she needed. Mitchell primarily works in Auburn, Gresham, and Chatham, where she said there are fewer service centers for the team to transport or refer aid patients. A lot of their calls come from concerned family members. They've been trying to manage them at home for some time, Mitchell said. Often it's years, sometimes it's decades, where they're not connected to any provider. Beyond getting the person hospitalized, Mitchell also works with families on case management and connecting them to resources. A lot of the time, the call is about someone attempting suicide. Well, they want to kill themselves because they're afraid to get evicted. That kind of speaks to that whole affordable housing issue the mayor was talking about, focusing on, which she's not. They want to kill themselves because someone in their family was just murdered. They want to kill themselves because their lights are being turned off, Mitchell said. So it's not as simple as getting them to the hospital. The teams that include a police officer have responded to 228 calls. However, 43% of the time, responders were not able to make contact with the individual or the person refused service, according to the program's data dashboard. Some of them are related to mental health disturbances in the community, and they may be homeless. So a lot of times, by the time we get there, they may have already left the scene, Garas said of the calls. So the article goes on to say, people with mental health problems are 10 times more likely to be victims of violent crime than the general population. And only 3 to 5% of violent acts can be attributed to people with serious mental illness, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The idea for Chicago's program started in 2019 when the then Crisis Intervention Advisory Council made 33 recommendations to the city of Chicago, including one to develop alternate response models. In 2020, city officials started developing one looking to similar programs in cities like Dallas, New York, and Denver, among others. The pilot program started in September, as we reported, with 2 teams made up of a mental health clinician, a paramedic, and a crisis intervention team police officer who have been responding to calls in Lakeview and Uptown and in the Auburn, Gresham, and Chatham neighborhoods. Lakeview, Uptown, Auburn, Gresham, Chatham. How many neighborhoods is that for, Ed?
Well, that's 4.
How many neighborhoods do we have in Chicago?
More than you can count on one hand?
77. 77 neighborhoods.
77.
Yeah. 4 neighborhoods. $3.5 million. $130 million for a cops and robbers set. The police academy. The city has expanded the pilot program with a 3rd team. It's first operating without a police officer. That team responds to calls in the southwest side neighborhoods of Chicago Lawn, Gage Park, West Elsden, and West Lawn. It had to be a set of communities that consistently has the highest volume of 911 calls with a mental health component over a period of years, said Matt Richards, Deputy Commissioner for Behavioral Health with the Chicago Department of Public Health. We also felt very strongly that we wanted to bring an equity focus to this project so that diverse regions and populations of the city were being served by the pilot. So, here are the numbers. The pilot program costs between $3 and $4 million a year and is largely funded through the city's general operating fund, Richards said. The largest expense of the program is salaries, which are paid to team members through their corresponding departments. As part of the 2022 budget, city officials dedicated $15 million of the city's $1.887 billion in American Rescue Plan federal funding for the program's future expenses, Richards said. $33 million, $33 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was holding up threes. For the fake neighborhood. $3 to $4 million a year for mental health services in 4 neighborhoods, expanding to a few more. 1, 2, 4 more.
100. Sorry, Jerry. 130 million for the fake neighborhood.
Well, total, but the neighborhood that they're adding to the police academy, I think, came in at 33 million in addition to 90 million prior. Yeah. So the neighborhood component of the police academy, $33 million, no problem. No problem. We'll have it by the morning, right? Like Jake and Elwood said to the Penguin about the Cook County assessor's tax assessment on St. Mary of the Blessed Shroud Orphanage. All right. Anyway, yeah, there's the numbers. Antoinette Ursitti, deputy chief of the Chicago Police Department's training and support group, which includes the crisis intervention unit, said the unit has for many years been involved in what is called the Crisis Intervention Advisory Committee, now the Chicago Council on Mental Health Equity. The committee's recommendations made sense, Ursitti said. City officials have spent a lot of time evaluating a wide range of 911 calls and determined that for some of those calls, it's appropriate for an officer to accompany the mental health clinician so that safe interaction can happen. Okay, I will concede to that. All right, let's be fair here.
Yeah, that was I think what some of the aldermen had a problem with. I know. Yeah. I think even we had questions about that when they first started talking about the pilot program.
I think what we're seeing here is that we are allowing for a number of different types of responses to meet the variety of needs for our residents here, Ursitti said. County programs follow suit. Similar programs in Cook, Lake, and McHenry counties also provide access to social workers in response to emergency calls, but they do not go to the scene. Instead, in Cook County, sheriff's deputies at the scene use smart pads to let agitated individuals talk to a counselor immediately. And in McHenry, police refer people to a social worker for follow-up. All right, where's this all going? I will tell you. I mean, we understand what the issues are. We understand what the lack of priorities are in regards to where the money is going and where it isn't going. Clearly, mental health is always on the back burner when it comes to our elected representatives, not leaders, list of priorities. This was shared with me by Kathy Powers. Kathy, thank you. I do get your emails. I'm just not able to always respond to them all. But this was very, very relevant to the story we just reported on regarding the 911 response system having some success but a lot of limitations. Kathy shared this link with me in email. It's a petition. For whatever it's worth, I do think you get enough people to demand this. At least it puts it more on the radar for the media as well as our elected representatives. This petition is at actionunitedworkingfamilies.org, and we do have the link in the show notes. In fact, I will share the link in the live chat. And no, I have not signed the petition yet because I have been busy preparing the show. I will. For everybody else, I just put it in the live chat. Here's a link to the petition that Kathy was very, very gracious in sharing with us. And let me read from the petition as it relates to these mental health services. We demand a fully funded non-police crisis response system. We are calling on Mayor Lori Lightfoot to, number one, halt the implementation of the police co-responder program. Number two, invest $100 million for the creation of a citywide non-police crisis response. Hey, do you know how much can probably be avoided with that $100 million investment in intervention, mental health? Allocate no less than $100 million of federal relief funding, ARPA, to the expansion of the CDPH mental health centers in order to provide the necessary mental health services associated with crisis response, including but not limited to prevention, deflection, diversion, and continuity of care. Mayor Lightfoot's touted alternative response proposal will continue to put people in harm's way. people with untreated mental illness are 16 times more likely to be killed by law enforcement. Given the prevalence of mental illness in police shootings, reducing encounters between the on-duty law enforcement and individuals with the most severe psychiatric diseases may represent the single most immediate practical strategy for reducing fatal police shootings in the United States, as reported by the Treatment Advocacy Center in 2015. We must stop criminalizing mental illness. Social workers and people directly involved in mental health treatment have repeatedly expressed opposition to a police responder model. And why was that police responder model more integrated, Ed? Could it have anything to do with all the mental health, or maybe kind of symptomatic of some of the mental health clinics that were shut down by Rahm Emanuel during his reign of terror?
Well, that, and also it's just the police union raises a stink when anyone has any kind of solution that doesn't involve them.
Yeah.
That's what it really is. I've been seeing in the chat, Kathy has said, don't concede to wanting police in the responder role. She says, want a cop at every therapy. That's not what we said.
That's not what we said, Kathy. They have to evaluate if they can legitimately evaluate what could be a dangerous situation. A social worker is going to be left vulnerable, and you don't want them left vulnerable. This is a case-by-case assessment. Now, I would imagine Kathy would argue that it wouldn't be assessed properly. Possibly. They would say, no, every situation requires a cop, when it really does have to be very, very carefully vetted. Sending the social workers only to the situations where they can handle it and there's no kind of a violent component where a police person would be valuable in protecting the social worker. So I think we do need to kind of be fair, erring on the side of caution there.
And Ilhan are also echoing that response.
Yeah.
We don't need cops on wellness checks. That should be the default. We should not have cops on wellness checks. It should be one of those things where, like we said, case by case basis.
Yeah.
This person's if a person's having a bad mental health episode, but they happen to mention that they are considering violence on somebody or themselves.
Yeah, social work is not going to be.
They have to weigh that option and decide. Should we have somebody there as a backup who's properly trained for de-escalation?
Yes. I mean, really, Kathy. Okay, I'm going to disagree with you. I'm sure that they can, and I'm sure that they are trained to, but in a situation where there are factors that they cannot properly prepare for, then you're putting them in a dangerous situation. I just think there's too much gray here. This is not a black and white issue. I think I see so much, for lack of a better expression, a tribal mentality. It's a black and white situation. It's not. I encounter this a lot, Ed, when I talk politics with people. Everybody thinks I'm a lefty. And so when I hold lefties accountable, they think I'm a Republican, and then Republicans think I'm a lefty because I'm all for people having freedom and not having any intervention or moral judgments on them. It's like, you can't be lefty or righty, you can't be Democrat or Republican. There is too much gray area in between that are affecting parties on both sides, I think. So look, I am not condoning, the cops have got to be everywhere, Kathy. I'm not. I mean, come on. You listen to me on this show all the time. I want to believe in law enforcement. I know we can't. Too many corrupt cops, too many stories that unfortunately show there are more bad cops in my mind than good cops. However, I really think that, like with COVID, where I said I think people should be vaccinated and err on the side of caution, I don't think there's anything wrong erring on the side of caution, assessing situations here, and determining when a police officer should be dispatched with a mental health professional, depending on circumstances that could escalate into violence. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying all the time, but I do. I think the problem here, Ed, is that we don't have faith in the system that they can properly assess case by case, and I would agree with that. I mean,
that's obviously why we have
right.
such response
right
to this type of thing, is that we still have to fix the broken system.
Yep.
Or replace the broken system with a working system is the reality. But
the majority of mental health crisis calls do not involve a crime and do not involve violence. Advocates demand that mental health professionals and paramedics paramedics. Okay. I think paramedics probably also have some defensive training, a little bit. So when they're demanding that mental health professionals and paramedics be the first responders for these types of calls in Chicago, I can be on board for that. Without police involvement. This approach is being implemented by cities around the country, including New York, Albuquerque, Eugene, and Denver. Although, again, assessing case by case, I think a paramedic might even be able to better assess a situation that can escalate than a mental health professional. So, maybe.
As far as this petition goes, I would support that.
Yeah, I do too.
Because basically you want to take the side of not needing a police response, and then let the cities figure out if they're going to have one as a backup plan. Once they've actually come up with the response that doesn't need one. So hopefully we don't need one in the future.
Yeah, Ilhanner shares in the chat. It should be done on a case by case basis. Some situations are violent and you need protection. That being said, we also need to evaluate the situations better. Yeah. Beastmaster X. Jerry, F's the Democrats are not left. Okay, yeah, oh. I know the Democrats are not left wing. Okay, they protect
FFS. Jerry is for F's sake.
For fuck's sake. I know that, Beastmaster. We know that today's Democrats are not left wing, okay?
No,
but
they're right wing.
They pretend that they are. And the Republicans point to them as if they are to separate and divide the rest of us, as if there is no functioning left wing in the United States of America anymore that's looking out for worker rights, it's looking out for Medicare for all. I understand that, so I think you might be misconstruing or misunderstanding what I'm saying. But
and I'll be clear from my perspective that that the duopoly is two right wings that are working together.
Yeah,
and we should dump them.
Two heads of the same serpent. This is my hypothesis. I think that Republicans that were sick and tired of the religious wackos driving the agenda of the Republican Party bailed ship and basically hijacked the Democratic Party. They're still pro-business. They're still pro-Wall Street. They just didn't want to associate with the religious, fundamentalist, extremist wackos that seem to be controlling things in the Republican Party. So you've got basically two Republican parties right now. The pro-business Republican Party, which is the Democrats, and the extreme religious wacko pro-business party, which is the Republican Party. There's no...
I beg your pardon. What did you say?
What did I say? Did I swear?
No.
I lose track.
I think I hit the wrong button.
Cheers, Beastmaster. Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at you for what you called me out on. That's cool. I don't take it personally. I just wanted to clarify. Gene shares, cops perceive every situation as dangerous. Prove me wrong. I don't disagree with you, Gene. I don't disagree with you at all. Kathy, I've had training. I'm not. Are you talking about mental health intervention training? I'm not sure what you're relating to there to understand this particular point, although I'm sure it's well founded. It's the corporatocracy of America. Our country only serves the billionaire class. We're slaves to our capitalistic system. Yeah. Shout it from the rooftops, Ilhanner. All right, so let me wrap up the details of the petition, though. Non-police crisis response works. A year's worth of pilot data, or do you say data, from Denver showed that of the 1,351 calls for service, no calls required the assistance of the Denver Police Department, and no individuals were arrested. And that's a great stat. In 2019, Eugene, Oregon crisis teams requested police backup only 150 times out of the 24,000 calls. Despite knowing all of this, in August, Mayor Lightfoot plans on rolling out a pilot that will continue to have police ride along as co-responders with mental health responders to crisis calls. A police co-responder model does not reduce the risk of harm to people experiencing a mental health crisis. Funding for this pilot should not be spent on police salaries when it can be instead be used to fund additional clinicians and peer support staff, and dare I say it, as Kit would say, more mental health clinics. Mic drop.
Didn't we used to have a lot more of those, Jerry?
We did until this asshole decided to fuck everything up. Where's he now?
Oh, he's in that Japan place. He's a ambassador of Godzilla or something.
You know, in regards to the mental health clinics, did he take responsibility?
I take responsibility for what happened because it happened on my watch.
I would like to thank the great mayor of the city of Chicago, Mayor Emanuel, for help making this happen today.
You know, any opportunity to diss that 9-digit midget, I'm all over it.
Okay, should we do a rundown of all the police academy names?
Sure.
Yeah, I think Gene made a nice big list.
Awesome.
For us, yeah.
Why don't you read those while I set up the next story?
Okay, the Sty, the Trough, Piggy Town,
Piggy Town. I love it.
Fuzzville, Hog Hovel, Hog Pen, Bacon Town, Duncan Academy. I like that one. That was fun. Bean Academy, Con Town, Fuhrer Bunker. Oh boy. The Town to Nowhere, Oinkerville, and Pigburg. Thank you.
Pigburg. That's a good one.
Pigburg.
Any other comments in the chat that you can share related to our last story?
I got an idea. How about Escalationville?
That's cool.
Okay, did we miss other stuff in the chat? Yeah, for sure. Let's go. Oh. Carnoble.
That's good.
That's funny. Okay.
I'm opening up a Tribune story. Now, I subscribed to the Tribune, and they gave me a $6 deal for the rest of the year, after which they want to start charging me, I think, whatever it was, $3.99 or something a week. But even though I've subscribed to this special deal, I'm still having paywall issues trying to open the goddamn articles to share with the rest of you.
Okay. Gene is asking, what is con a reference to? It's a short version of leprechaun.
Yeah, Kathy's.
Which is that.
Yeah. The Chan.
That's Lori Lightfoot dressed up as a leprechaun for St. Patrick's Day.
And I want to see, even though I'm paying for the Tribune subscription, I'm still getting advertisements on their page. All right.
You want me to pull?
No, I got it. I just had to shuffle some windows around. All right. So here we go. So I want to thank our colleague, our beloved Kira McCown, for sharing this with me. It kind of relates to the last story about priorities with providing mental health services, providing support for people with the CARE program. Because, whether you need mental health assistance or health assistance before the police show up or after, it appears the Federal Monitor finds Illinois prisons fail to provide adequate health care to inmates. The Illinois Department of Corrections is again under fire for failing to provide adequate health care for roughly 29,000 prisoners in its system, with a scathing Federal Monitor's report this week citing shortcomings that range from the mistreatment of elderly inmates, that's what kind of caught my eye on this, to a severe shortage of doctors and nurses and poor record keeping. The report was released just days after a federal judge held IDOC in contempt for failing to complete a process in developing a plan required by the Monitor to improve the quality of health care for the agency's prison population. IDOC's failure here is staggering. Camille Bennett, an attorney at the American Civil Liberties Union, which represented prisoners in the lawsuit that led to the contempt order, said in a statement, "They were required by court order 3 years ago to develop a plan to fix the unconstitutional health care deficiencies for our clients across the state, and they have yet to do it. We hope this will wake their leadership." Now, look, I know there are going to be a lot of people that are going to say, oh, well, if they end up in prison, why do they have to take our tax dollars? Why do they need the care? You know, they made their bed, they made their decisions. Oh, no. Maybe some of them did. That doesn't give you an excuse to be inhumane. And as we go into our next story coming up, as shared by Reef Breland in regards to, police torture and people that were thrown in prison who were not guilty of crimes because of police torture coercing confessions. As I like to say, a little ounce of prevention, a little erring on the side of caution will generally be the better way to go, especially when it comes to these people's rights in prison. Look, if you're in prison, you're doing your time. That doesn't mean you get to be treated like we treat animals better. I was about to say treated like an animal. I would like to think we treat animals better than the way that we're treating our inmates in our prison population who are doing their time. The problems at IDOC were the latest to confront Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker over his administration's management of state agencies, which has been a major avenue of criticism from Republicans as he seeks re-election. Issues under Pritzker's watch include the deaths of 36 veterans during the 2020 COVID-19 outbreak at a state-run home in LaSalle, the loss of nearly $2 billion through fraudulent payments made through the state's Department of Employment Security, and acquisitions of mismanagement at the Department of Children and Family Services, whose Pritzker-appointed director has been held in contempt on several occasions for failing to find an appropriate placement for children. In 2019, during Pritzker's first year in office, IDOC fell under a federally mandated consent decree to overhaul its healthcare system, the culmination of a lawsuit filed against the agency in 2010 by prisoners who alleged systematic problems that led to serious disease and even death for prisoners. The 292, I know everyone's going to call me a bleeding heart for saying we need to clean up this situation, right? Maybe not people here. I know people in our live chat won't, but God forbid we're on any other social media platforms where there are constitutional conservatives. The 292-page monitor's report, released Tuesday, the fifth of its kind since the consent decree went into effect, said some elderly prisoners with dementia appeared neglected and abused. We see this in nursing homes too. I mean, if we're really going to be honest at how out of control the problem is, but I digress. Ailing prisoners in some cases were not adequately hydrated or provided assistance in eating by medical staff, according to the report. In one case, a prisoner in poor health was left on a mattress and soiled himself without a nurse cleaning him, the report said. It also noted a shortage of doctors and nurses throughout the IDOC system, reporting that in one instance, there was one doctor assigned as the medical director for 4 facilities housing. Ed, how many prisoners do you think one doctor assigned as a medical director for 4 facilities could manage?
You mean if they actually if had enough doctors? You mean?
Well, no. In this case, they're saying, reporting that in one instance there was one doctor assigned as the medical director for 4 facilities housing so many prisoners. Legitimately, if you were going to assign one doctor to 4 facilities, how many prisoners do you think would be fair to say that's how many he should supervise?
Well, I don't think doctors should be handling any large number of patients. So they're probably making these doctors deal with thousands of patients.
4,711 prisoners, one doctor, 4 facilities.
I mean,
this shortage of physicians has created an access to care and quality of care crisis at multiple facilities and needs to be urgently addressed, the monitor said in the report. Go ahead.
Ilhan brings up a thing I was going to talk about. Basically, we have what is a free prison labor industrial complex.
Yep.
Ilhan calls it the American slave system. Oops, I meant the prison system. And yeah, the 13th Amendment, was it the 13th or was 14th? It was the 13th. One of those amendments, there was a 13th Amendment, basically legalized slavery in prisons only. And so now which is why very often they try to privatize and make profits by selling prison labor. Our current vice president is one of those people.
Oh, don't get me started on her, man. That was the main thing that I said should have completely disqualified her from even considering running for president during the last election.
And
was her decision, you want to do you know? Should you tell that story or should I tell it? You want to go into it?
The thing I wanted to add though was that if you're going to have your free prison labor, the very least you can do is provide them with proper health care. They don't even want to do that. That's how terrible this capitalist prison labor system is.
$3 a day to fight fires in California because the rich people living in California, the rich Democratic majority in California, is too fucking cheap to hire actual firefighters to put all of the brush fires several years ago before the pandemic that were burning down the coast.
And they won't even let them become firefighters after.
Of course not. Out. Of course not. This shortage of physicians has created. Okay, I'm sorry. The department has difficulty in recruiting and retaining physicians with the required training and qualifications, the report said, while also criticizing the agency for not routinely providing information on the credentials of the doctors it has hired. An IDOC spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Of course they didn't. So Pritzker, speaking to reporters at the unveiling of the where's Peg Leg? At the unveiling of the butter cow sculpture at the Illinois State Fair, said that healthcare within our prison system has actually improved significantly since I took office. I see Ed's gone faceless. I can only wait to see what's coming up. The governor's office said a healthcare plan for prisons. The governor's office said a healthcare plan for prisons was submitted in late May, but there was never a response on it from the federal monitor. The plan is one that gets negotiated, and the opposition anyway on the other side of the case disagrees with the plan that was put forward, Pritzker said. One of the challenges that we have across the state of Illinois really is finding healthcare personnel of every sort for hospitals, for healthcare institutions, and within our prison system, the governor said. So in order to implement a plan, you need enough healthcare professionals, and that's one of the challenges we're discussing with the other side in the lawsuit. The federal monitor did find that IDOC deserved praise in some areas, particularly for how it navigated the COVID-19 pandemic. Since February, there have been no, quote, patient inmate hospitalizations due to COVID-19, the report stated, noting that IDOC wisely partnered with the Illinois Department of Public Health to implement policies for the virus. The report also said the agency successfully implemented a system-wide vaccination program for inmates and staff, as well as implementing universal masking, isolation, and quarantine procedures, and regular testing for the disease. Great. It still doesn't address the point of the article at the get-go here. They're not providing adequate health care to the inmates when you consider how many doctors, 4 units, 4,000 prisoners. That's just, it's ludicrous.
Was somebody say something about a cow?
Yeah, we were talking about J.B. Pritzker. I knew you were going to be right on it. Commenting at, let's see here. He was at the unveiling of the butter cow sculpture at the Illinois State Fair, where he said that the healthcare within our prison system has actually improved significantly since he took office.
I don't know what that has to do with anything cow-related other than that dude likes butter.
I said at the top of the show I was worried about your cholesterol levels with the amount of pizza that you take in, and you said that, what was it that Ed told me?
Oh, he said, what did he say? He said,
he said he doesn't have a problem with cholesterol. He likes all kinds.
That's right. Well, I look at our governor, and I'm even more concerned for him at this butter cow sculpture at the Illinois State Fair. But whatever.
Although, to be fair, butter gets a pretty bad rap. It's not really as bad for you as everybody says it is.
Well, peg leg, I want to.
It's that fake margarine stuff. That stuff will kill you.
I want to clarify. I think I should clarify my comments at the top of the show. My only concerns for Ed's cholesterol are because I have high cholesterol, and I know it's because of years delivering Lou Malnati's pizza in high school and college, where they fed us every night with free pizza. So,
that had to be a glorious time for you, Jerry.
Oh, it was. Thank Christ I was able to lose the weight since then, but yeah, it was. All right, getting back to the article. We were talking about the fact that there were no more COVID hospitalizations, implemented system-wide vaccination program. Then the report also noted how IDOC has been more proactive in treating prisoners diagnosed with hepatitis C from 2018 to May of 2021. During that time, there were 288 prisoners with the disease, and the treatment rate jumped from 6.9 patients a month to 23.5. All right, great. There's still a problem, though. You know, the thing that gets me, Ed's back, is that we present our representatives, those in charge, with a problem, and it's just deflection and distraction. Well, look what is working. Great, fine, give you credit for that. But there's still a problem over here. What do you do about that? That's been going on for a while. And why is it a problem? And why isn't it being addressed? Why is it we have to bring it to your attention in an article like this study that this Tribune is reporting to advocate for those prisoners who are being ignored or forgotten or abandoned? Yeah, especially the older ones are the ones dealing with dementia problems and mental health. When I saw dementia in this article, I was thinking mental health, which linked in a transition with our previous story. How about that?
And and we were reminded by Illinois, there's debtors prisons again. Was it Maryland? I think they just had somebody, and there was some other news story. People are basically getting prison time for owing money.
Oh yeah,
that's not, that's not supposed to be legal anymore.
Well, lest we forget the ramping up of the IRS as we saw this week, Ed, and I cannot tell you. Let's take a quick little detour here, okay? I cannot tell you how many friends on Facebook with Democratic leanings who support the Biden-Harris administration are screaming from the rooftops that this IRS is not going to be weaponized against the gig worker economy, against middle-class people. They really honestly think that Biden's dispatch of these, 87,000 new IRS agents is to go after all the rich billionaires who've got armies of accountants that know how to basically avoid the tax burden with legal loopholes. You
stupid, ignorant son of a bitch, dumb bastard! Jesus Christ, I've met some dumb bastards in my time, but you outdo them all. Get over there!
Right? There's one we rarely get a chance to use. The brilliant late Gene Wilder in a great movie, Silver Streak. But yeah, they think that these IRS agents are going to be hired to go after the billionaires who are routinely cheating the system. Among them, all the members of Congress who are insider trading in the stock market with ill-gotten gains, who are taking donations from that billionaire class. Oh, yeah. Those IRS agents are going to go after their donors, right?
Yeah, the other line of reasoning says that maybe they're hiring them so that they can process the returns faster and get people the refunds faster. I'm like, all right, maybe part of that, but mostly they're just going to go for enforcement to try and get everybody in the working class to start
exactly what it's about. And I'll take it one further. They're going to get back all that pandemic relief money that they gave to people for the past 2 years. And now that people are recovering, that's how they're going to get that money back, by dispatching these agents to go after gig workers who are already struggling. And hey, I'm not advocating you should cheat on your taxes, okay? But the average taxpayer does not have the means to pay an accountant to properly process and represent all of their return the way that billionaires who avoid all taxes do. That's the bottom line.
And we're talking federal taxes here.
Yes.
And along those lines, the federal government should not be in a giant rush or hurry or panic to deal with federal tax collection, because that's not how they pay for things. That's not how they do federal spending.
Tell us. Give us a quick review on how they do it, Ed.
You're doing basically the spending comes first on the federal level. They create the dollars, they create the money. If they want to spend money on something, they just have to find out if the resources exist. Then they pass a bill, and the dollars are created to pay for that. So they're not going to send you an invoice asking you to pay for your share of the 780 something billion annual defense budget. You're not getting a monthly bill like you get a streaming bill for your Disney Plus. You're paying taxes. The basic reason is to give money value. You can only pay federal taxes in U.S. dollars. That's what gives the U.S. dollar its value. People will say, oh, well, there's other things like oil and all the other stuff. You're getting into the weeds there. That's stuff that the normal person doesn't have to worry about. The reality is that the federal government can pay for anything that it wants to, as long as the resources are there. If they wanted to send out relief checks to everybody, they could. They would have to be concerned maybe about actual inflation and not this price gouging we're currently experiencing that is masquerading as inflation, that the Federal Reserve is also pretending is inflation. We don't need to deal with that. Ilhanar's correct.
Absolutely.
It's a jobs program. I mean, that's the only positive part about that is it's going to be, you want to be an IRS agent. Here's your chance, right? 87,000 new jobs.
Putting this one up again too.
IRS.
I was audited once. I was audited back in. Here's a great little story. When did I make my Christmas? So, for fans who've watched the show previously, I think I've shared in the past that I financed my Christmas movie that went on Lifetime television with the proceeds from the personal injury settlement that I received in result for the loss of my leg back in I had my accident in 1986. I think it was by 1994 the case had gone through the system and settled, and I had a nice $200,000 chunk of change in a personal injury settlement. Should have been more, but it wasn't. And I just decided, let me put the accident behind me, take these funds and produce a film because I wanted to become a director. So personal injury settlements are not taxable income by the IRS. But I ended up spending $130,000 to $140,000 to produce my Christmas movie. I took my money, spent my money to produce a film to launch my career as a director. I had formed a legal production company, a corporation, Night Star Productions. And you better believe a couple years later, when my accountant started, doing my taxes and taking a loss on the $130,000 that I spent to produce my movie, which I never made back. Oh, the IRS was all up my ass. Where did you get that $130,000? It's from a personal injury settlement. Kid lost his leg when he was 20 years old, and at 25 decided to produce a movie. So he took his money, formed a production company. That's where the money went. It's a legitimate, taxable, I guess, loss or carrying forward the amount of money that I had that was never taxable, that I then invested in my company. But I got to tell you, Ed, it freaked me out. It was as simple and plain as day what had happened. The amount of money I had to pay an accountant to deal with that IRS agent auditing it like I was some kind of a fucking drug dealer or something. It was very, very simple. Kid lost his leg, got a big chunk of change from a settlement, It's not taxable. He invested in a company. He spent that money on a film. He has not made that money back. In fact, I was defrauded by a distributor, which is one of the other reasons I never made the money back. But you know what? That IRS agent was like a fucking dog with a bone, as simple as the facts were. So when I see this kind of stuff happen and people defending the IRS, they're only going after the billionaires, I'm like, dude, you've never been audited to understand the mindset of IRS agents and those who are trained to just follow orders to go after the rest of us to get that money back for the government that they, gave people during the pandemic for some kind of relief while they also bailed everybody else out that doesn't pay taxes with these big, large corporations and businesses.
Yeah, and to be fair to the IRS, they weren't always just there to hassle the man. They, the U.S. was on the gold standard at one time.
When was that?
That was up all the way up until basically Nixon took us off of it.
Okay.
So they were actually
going after big companies. Yeah. When big companies were paying, what was the tax percentage, the tax rate? They were keeping people honest, and then suddenly everything shifted.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, it's like, the federal government should not be wasting resources or money on expanding the IRS. They should be simplifying federal taxes.
Ooh.
For most people.
Kathy's got some.
Oh, Kathy works for the IRS. Oh, I see how it is, Kathy.
Yeah.
Are those leprechaun videos tax deductible? I wonder.
Is that me gold?
What the hell are you?
I'm a leprechaun, me dear.
Here, this is what you're looking for, right?
Close my eyes, starting help! I'm the leprechaun. Garth, I'm the leprechaun!
Cool it, okay?
I'm the leprechaun!
Stop it, alright?
Don't try and steal me, pot of gold!
See, I think that's the other problem, is there aren't that many leprechauns around anymore, and, so they gotta work for the IRS.
Yeah.
But since we're no longer on the gold standard, they may not want to work there anymore.
Well, let's go into our next story, of which I wish to credit our very good friend of the show, Reef Breland, who tagged us on Twitter. Hey, Kit Cabello, Laney Peterson, and Nightstar Pro, Hardlands Media, Chicago Corner. Here's me and Agbana Cullen covering a story you peeps might want to look at. If you know any of the orgs involved, we'd love to speak to them at Get Indie News. Now, this was
that's Colin Radix Carter.
Okay,
was his co-host on that.
Now, this was about the Chicago movement. In Chicago, the movement forces to the release of Chicago police torture survivors. This is the CFIST, Campaign to Free Incarcerated Survivors of Torture, and NAARPR.org, National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. I want to share some of the video that Reef did, because he did some great reporting on this over on YouTube. So I'd like to play some of his video, and then we can dive into the article. I mean, I think he tells the story far better than I could, and I do want to give him credit, and I'd like to showcase him on the show since he was so gracious to have me on his show in the past. So let me run the video.
Thanks to Reef and Colin from INN.
Who are these people?
Speaking of, I brought this story to the table, which is from Pop Resistance, and specifically by Fight Back News, and they are talking about in Chicago, like a couple of movements together forced the release of some Chicago police torture survivors that are like legit survivors and been proven to be so pretty much. This is like CFIST and the NAARPR, right? The National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, and the Campaign to Free It probably tells me right here. I hope. Where is it? The campaign to free incarcerated survivors of police torture. Those people. So it's not going back, is it? Why? There we go. So, in Chicago, Illinois, a series of victories was won in the past month by the movement to free survivors of fortune and wrongful conviction at the hands of Chicago Police Department Claiborne Smith, Marcellus Pittman, Juan Hernandez, and Rosendo Hernandez, Arthur Almendarez, John Galvin, Ruby Abrigo, Jeremiah Kane, David Gecht, and David Colin have all had historic judgments in their cases. So, in the case of Claiborne Smith, a decision of the Illinois Appellate Court, authored by Justice Cynthia Combs, reversed the decision of Circuit Court Judge Alfredo Maldonado. Jesus.
Maldonado.
Chicago. It's all half Italians, right?
I love that. I think he forgot the huge Irish population, but I digress. Actually, let me go into the rest of the article, and I want to come to what I liked were Reef and Collins' comments after the article. So, in turn, Judge Maldonado found in the case of Marcellus Pittman that his tortured confession at the hands of Halloran and O'Brien was inadmissible. Marcellus Pittman also had the charges against him dropped by the state's attorney's office. Within the written decisions by each of these judges, it was laid out plainly that these detectives with a history of torture are not credible and should not be called as witnesses. Justice Cynthia Dobbs in the Claiborne Smith case stated in her decision, the defendant has produced sufficient evidence of a pattern of physical abuse by the detectives in question, referring to Detectives Boudreau, Halloran, and O'Brien, and Judge Robert Maldonado stated in his decision in the Marcellus Pittman case that his ruling called into question the credibility of Halloran and O'Brien's denials. These decisions come after years of campaigning by the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, campaign to free incarcerated survivors of police torture, mothers activating movements for abolition and solidarity, and mamas, and the Chicago Torture Justice Center to free survivors of police torture and wrongful convictions and hold torturing officers accountable, which is what isn't ever done. In October of 21, CAA-RPR began to pressure the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. Why should they have to pressure the Cook County State's Attorney's Office in light of clear criminal activity with tortures, gaining confessions that aren't actually legit? The Cook County State's Attorney's Office to take action on 409 cases of torture and wrongful convictions. Let me say that again. 409. Detailed in a comprehensive report that can be found on the Chicago Alliance website. That's why I referenced in the previous story, Ed, where people might be saying, oh, well, those prisoners who aren't getting the medical attention, they made their bed. They should sleep in it. They made a bad choice. You know what? When you hear
simplistic thinking,
right? How many confessions are coerced by crooked sociopath cops, like we're hearing about in this article,
over the last several decades?
Yep. Yeah. CAA-RPR presented the CCSAO with 9 demands. These included that their office move to vacate convictions for all those framed, tortured, and wrongfully convicted. That doesn't sound that unreasonable, especially in cases involving detectives with a pattern and practice of torture, that cases involving John Burge's Midnight Crew, of which Boudreau, Halloran, and O'Brien were a part, be reviewed and the related convictions vacated, and that the CCSAO publicly state that they will cease calling detectives with established records of torture as witnesses. Again, that doesn't seem that unreasonable. These, I mean, if you've
unless they don't have any detectives left after they do that.
That's probably what they're worried about. These recent rulings directly reflect the campaign's demands. Another demand of this campaign was for the CCSAO to provide information on the status of their promised comprehensive review of Guevara's case, rapidly complete the review and vacate all convictions in which detectives Ronaldo Guevara, Joseph Midnowski, and Ronald Watts were involved. Reynaldo Guevara is a former homicide detective who secured dozens of convictions by framing mostly Puerto Rican and black young people.
Yeah, we just did a story about Guevara. They just turned. Sorry, brain not working.
No, when did you get
overturned a bunch of dismissed a bunch of cases, didn't they?
Was that on Tuesday's show? Because I didn't see it.
I think it was Tuesday.
I missed it. Okay, maybe you and Kira covered it then. According to the report, over 50 individuals have accused him of coercing confessions through physical or psychological torture or through manipulating witnesses to obtain convictions. Many of them were juveniles at the time of the arrest. Cook County Judge Obish said Guevara has now eliminated the possibility of being considered a credible witness in any proceeding due to the evidence against him and his refusal to testify. This is a judgment that is now applied to other torturer cops such as Boudreaux, Halloran, and O'Brien. The leading force behind the effort to free survivors of Detective Guevara has been the organization Innocent Demand Justice, IDJ, which is led by Guevara survivors themselves as well as family members like Esther Hernandez, who's been fighting for the freedom of her two sons, Juan Pucci Hernandez and Rosando Hernandez, since their wrongful imprisonment in 1997. Let me jump ahead to some of the commentary that Reef and Colin had, because I thought it was like, yeah, unfortunately, welcome to Chicago. Let me jump ahead here. Give me a moment. Here we go. I'm at the right spot.
I think the idea, like, you know, they were torturing people who didn't commit any crimes, basically. You know, like, only for now, like, I didn't read this article, but, like, do you know how long they were locked up in jail for?
I think one of the guys was like a year or so, right? Like, it was fairly fresh. I think it might say in the rest of the article. But I mean, it's 409 convictions of like torture by these assholes. Like,
Reef speaks my language.
How many lives were ruined by that?
Right.
You know?
But I think it's just the idea of, and I think it's not surprising considering, you know, like what we've seen, you know, within the last 3 years, you know, with cops, you know, it's basically the way that they, you know, arrest people or, you know, like try to handle, you know, especially Black people in terms of justice is, I wouldn't necessarily call it torture, but, you know, you can kind of equivocate it to this.
Yeah.
You know, it's the idea of like, you know, like a person's running away, then cops feel like, oh, okay, you know, unarmed, like cops feel it's okay, you know, to shoot them dead, you know. Like,
yeah.
You know, person like, you know, coming out of the car, you know, obviously not trying to start any mess, and then cops feel like, oh, it's okay for me to rough you up to
Escalate,
like,
and yeah.
To the point where like you get seriously hurt. You
right.
know, like, you know, you're trying to bring in people who obviously didn't commit crimes, so you're going to torture them so that they will just kind of give in, you know. So I think this is just kind of the whole idea, just as far as the police system, you know, in this country in general, is just basically all fucked up. But it's not designed, you know, for, it's not really designed for just, at least for the working class at least. This just kind of shows like, you know, more so like if you're within the working class, you know, under the cops, you know, especially if you're a person of color, then you really aren't worth shit. So, so it's not surprising, but I think especially given that it's Chicago, definitely not surprising.
Fucking Chicago. Like, yeah, this is like fucking old mob fucking, like, anyway, you know, this is like classic crooked cop. I mean,
yeah, well, yeah, they perfected that here.
You know, and Elias, who also lives in Chicago, how the, you know, Chicago PD operate. Right. But
it's why we call for reform. Why we want to redo the law enforcement system, because we've experienced this over the decades. I mean, Burge, Watts, Guevara. It seems like it's a nonstop and not a never-ending cycle. So yeah, it's got to stop.
But people will routinely continue to make excuses for them, Ed, because they want the sense of protection. That really doesn't de-escalate crime at all.
It's the illusion of protection, really.
Yeah, just like when we take off our shoes and belts at the airport, give us a sense of security, which isn't really there. Well, I want to thank Reef again and Colin for sharing that on Twitter, tagging us to bring it to our attention. I think maybe it's possible Kira may have also shared it in the Slack. But anyway, we encourage everybody to please share stories with us that we might not catch on Block Club Chicago or any of our other news outlets that we can share here and talk about.
Yeah, it was nice for him to pass on this different angle.
Yeah,
because we're all we've just, like I said, we just covered this type of corruption, but yeah, the angle of torture is one thing that we hadn't done yet.
Some interesting comments in the chat. Gene shares every single person involved in torture in any way has to be prosecuted. And Ilhanar said, police answer to the state, and the state always lies. Never trust an institution. Gene responds, I don't have faith in the vigilante system either, so it is the best option for now with a jury trial. And I think that couldn't be any more clearer than with what we saw ending up happening with the Alex Jones sentencing, or not the sentencing, the Alex Jones trial, in which he was ordered to pay restitution to those families that he defamed and slandered. It wasn't for Twitter to take him off the platform and start dictating censorship, which then opened the doors and floodgates for them to censor everybody. It was up to the civil court system, and they did justice, and he's going to pay for it now. It reminded me with Gene referencing a jury trial. We saw the system work that way, and as it should in all these other situations that were referenced earlier with the justice system. Now, does the justice system always work? No, not always. But, I think Gene's got a point there. I don't have faith in the vigilante system. Well, I do if it's Batman, Gene, but that's the only.
Chicago is beyond saving. Give me more time. There are good people here.
And Kathy also shares, which I agree with, you can't reform something broken. You have to build something new. Kathy, in the case of the courts, yeah, they are broken, not always. There are some good judges, not always, but reform is always the go-to word. Looking at some more comments here in the chat. George Floyd's murder is in prison, so it works sometimes. George Floyd's murderer is in prison. Okay, I follow now. Beastmaster X at Gene, revolution and a new system of direct voting on all laws instead of people. I'm all for that. The sickness is the system. Johnny Depp likes juries. Trial by jury is essential to a democracy. We should have a right to challenge our accusers. Yeah. All right, so as we head into the tail end of the show, I just want to give some updates regarding some of our political updates here in Chicago. Some more candidates coming onto the scene.
It's time for the Chicago mayoral clown car update. Here is Jerry Vasilatos with more information.
Yeah, so we've got Alderman Sophia King, who honestly I haven't heard about anything she's done before to understand why she thinks she's got a snowball's chance in hell of running against Lightfoot. I don't know what her ideas are. I don't know what major policies or platform. Oh, you've got her ready there. Thank you. Boy, you're quick on that, Ed. Thank you.
Yeah, I think she was. Somebody had her on a news story or something. Must have been when she announced. Basically, she wants more cops.
Oh, great! More cops, as if that solved all of our crime problems in the past. Oh, fuck me! All right.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Alderman King.
Well, let's go.
It sounded like all you wanted were more cops.
Yeah, let's go to the Block Club Chicago story. So this comes to us from Aaron Hegarty of the Daily Line. Alderman Sophia King announces run for mayor in 2023. King first took office in 2016 when she was tapped by Mayor Rahm Fuckface Emanuel to fill the seat left empty by William Burm's abrupt exit from City Hall.
Yeah, I'm taking credit for her too, but you can't touch me, suckers. I'm in Japan.
That's what you think.
I take responsibility for what happened because it happened on my watch.
Can never get enough of that.
I'm okay.
Fuck you, Rob. All right. Excuse me. So she announced Wednesday she's running for mayor in 2023, becoming the third sitting alderman to announce a challenge against Mayor Lori Lightfoot. King announced her bid for mayor in a campaign video that opens with her talking about how she will tackle violence in the city.
As our neighborhoods and renew downtown.
Let's bring that video up. Sorry, I hit the wrong screen here. It's the dog whistle, Ed. It's crime. It's the go-to dog whistle these days. Oh,
hey guys,
deal with
welcome
an
forward.
ad.
We're a new type of doctor's office that's providing preventive.
All right, here we go.
There it is, right there. Several days after I was sworn in.
All right, let's see
There
what
it is, right there. Several days after I was sworn in as alderman, right after I was sworn in, I got called to the scene. Bullet holes in the window. The residents afraid. You shouldn't have to live like this. You shouldn't have to live vulnerable.
You shouldn't. Do you want to address the root causes of crime?
No,
or
she
give
just
more money
wants
to
more
the
cops.
cops to go spend another $33 million on Playtown while we have people who are turning to crime because they don't have houses, they don't have jobs, they can't buy food.
In your own home.
Dog whistle to everybody who might be a victim of crime for that sense of security we talked about a moment ago.
Violence is not an abstract problem to me. I have seen the pain it causes way too many times. There's no question about it. We have to hold the people who commit violent crimes accountable. And we have to hold our leaders accountable too. I love this city. We need a Chicago that's safer and stronger. Let's put an end to the false choices because we can have safety and justice.
How?
Compassion and accountability.
More money to the cops. That's the only fucking solution she has.
Platitudes and gaslighting.
And reading downtown. We can educate our young people. We can build our city and build equity.
All her life, whenever so.
Educating your young people means investing in the neighborhoods, means providing more services and resources for those youths, more training, schools, education, perhaps mental health counseling.
Sophia sees a problem she runs towards
Oh, here's a white educator.
to get things done.
She's a leader on protecting our rights, whether that be reproductive rights or our right to a good job.
Reproductive rights are not under any threat in Illinois or Chicago. It's just such a false flag to like wave there, like she's going to have anything to do with protecting Roe v. Wade in Chicago. It's not an issue. She's pandering.
She fights for the rights of everybody. It's why we've made sure that minority contractors don't get shut out of city contracts and partner with the community to tackle the root causes of violent crime.
She always advocated for me as the district commander to get more recruits.
Oh, cool. A district commander is advocating for her. That tells me everything I need to know about why not to vote for her.
And she wants officers who are doing wrong to be held accountable.
Sure she does.
Everything I've ever done has been achieved by bringing people together to find real solutions to the problems confronting Chicago. I'm Sophia King, and I'm running for mayor because we need more collaboration, not confrontation.
It's word salad. It's just
progressive, and she will fight.
They've co-opted that word too. Oh, get out of here! Shut up! Enough with her.
It's like saying we get results. Outcomes are things I can provide.
Love the chat. Say it with
nothing.
Social programs. Journalist, as if that's a credible person now. Oh, great. Authoritarian punishment will fix the problems we have as people. Beastmaster X, I'm tired of the news making up excuses for the inflation and not saying that 9 out of every 10 US dollars in the world was printed up in the last couple of years. Thank you, Gene. Boo to Sophia King. So let me go to the article. I don't know that this article is going to tell us anything more that we don't already know from
Jerry,
her.
Before you get into that, okay, printing dollars is not what causes inflation. If that were the case, every time the government prints billions of dollars for the military-industrial complex, your loaf of bread at the grocery store would be increased in price by 10,000%. It's not. It's too simplistic to say printing dollars causes inflation. That is something you got to get out of your brain.
Kathy wants to know if Alderman Sophia King has a big package. We'll have to ask her if she does any press conferences or a debate. No, we won't. So let me share some of the other points that weren't covered in the campaign, the platitude video of Alderman King. So King says in the video she's running for mayor because we need more collaboration, not confrontation. Alderman Roderick Sawyer and Alderman Raymond Lopez have also announced plans to challenge Lightfoot. King first took office in 2016 when she was tapped by Mayor Rahm Emanuel to fill the seat left empty by William Burns' abrupt exit from City Hall. Was he under invest? Do you remember why he abruptly exited? I wonder if he was like the feds were closing in on him. King won her first council election in 2017 during a special election, defeating Ebony Lucas and Gregory Livingston. In 2019, King won re-election, defeating Lucas again. King has been a member of the City Council Progressive Reform Caucus since 2016, like that means anything anymore, the Progressive Caucus. It's like maybe one or two people in the Progressive Caucus who are actually like worth their salt, one of them being Sigcho Lopez, who, by the way, I got to interview this past Tuesday for our Chicago Corner Can TV edition that will probably be broadcast in a couple of weeks. That was a real treat to sit down with him at the studio. So speaking of progressives, it just kind of like reminded me that we have a handful that are left, but I don't know about all of them. She was elected chair of the caucus in June of 2020, replacing Alderman Susan Sidlowski-Garza at the helm. King has used her prominent role in city council government to push for the inclusion of a non-police emergency response program in Lightfoot's 2021 pandemic budget, which is woefully underfunded. She was also a leading proponent of the Empowered Communities for Public Safety Community Police Oversight Ordinance, which was approved in July of 2021, and the proposed Anjanette Young Ordinance to reform the police department's home raid protocols. All right, I can get on board for that. To be fair, policy disputes in 2021 snarled King's relationship with the Lightfoot administration and other aldermen, including a zoning restriction King proposed on home museums that kicked up a backlash from some colleagues. The proposal led to a bitter personal dispute with Alderman Michelle Smith. Lightfoot came out against King's measure, and it was never called for a vote. Ed, can you Google search home museums? I'm very curious what that's about while I get through the rest of this. King also went against Lightfoot in her advocacy for keeping Mercy Hospital open. The alderwoman argued that the mayor's administration overstepped its legal authority by reshuffling a new hospital owner's legal public commitments. Lightfoot hit back, saying King would rather have let the hospital close. Additionally, King was intensely involved in establishing the Bronzeville Lakefront mega development plan to build a new mixed-use campus for the former Michael Reese Hospital site. Prior to becoming alderperson, King got her start in the education realm, where she worked as a chemistry teacher at Chicago's Latin School, an administrator at Northwestern University and Chicago Public Schools, and a volunteer at Ariel Community Academy. In 2008, King was appointed president of the Kenwood Park Advisory Council by then Alderman Tony Preckwinkle. King grew up in Evanston and is married to Alan King, a house music DJ and drinker, Biddle and Reith LLP attorney. The couple are longtime friends of Michelle and Barack Obama and maintain relationships with other prominent South Siders. All right.
I don't know what that means. With the home museums. There must be some homes that have historical significance that need to be zoned in a specific way, I'm guessing. But as for the specific ones that she's dealing with, hold on. There's a March 23rd article from last year from Block Club Chicago. Plan to crack down on home museums scrapped after fierce opposition from artists and historians. It says Alderman Sophia King said there was a highly coordinated campaign against the ordinance, and she criticized Alderman Michelle Smith and Mayor Lori Lightfoot for their opposition to it.
So Lori Lightfoot was against this concept of home museums?
Here it is. Okay. Alderman Sophia King introduced and proposed an ordinance that aimed to prohibit museums from opening in some residential districts, saying last month she learned the hard way that private homes can be converted to small museums without a zoning change, allowing the museum to bypass the community input process some aldermen require before a zoning request is considered. So she wanted to propose an ordinance that would make sure she wasn't left out of the loop when somebody declares a home is a museum.
Okay. So also on Alderman Burns, he announced his resignation from the Chicago City Council to take a job with Airbnb. That's interesting on that home museum thing. I don't charge admissions, but a lot of my friends tell me my home is like a museum with all the memorabilia I've got.
Yeah, mine too. Although mostly it's a museum of dust, really.
All right, let's move on to some better political news.
Better news than that?
As far as election candidates, this comes from Maxwell Evans at Block Club Chicago. Oscar Sanchez, East Sider who went on hunger strike to protest General Iron, is running for 10th Ward alderperson. We're seeing a lot of activists step forth and run for aldermanic seats, which I think is great, especially as we see the longtime career aldermen running or jumping from city council like rats from a sinking ship. We've announced a couple of resignations in previous shows, and it looks like that vacuum is potentially going to be filled with activists who are on the ground in the streets. Understand?
Yes!
What their fellow neighbors are dealing with to represent them over at City Council. So Maxwell Evans at Block Club Chicago reports Sanchez's platform will center environmental justice, equitable education, affordable housing, and workforce development, among other points. These were a lot of topics that I talked about with Alderman Sigjo Lopez on Tuesday for the Can TV show. He will challenge two-term incumbent Alderman Susan Siglowski Garza for the seat. I have urgency because I've seen so much suffering in the last 2 years where our safety nets don't work, Sanchez told Block Club Thursday. We are ready to have leadership that's coming from the community and led by the community. The election for mayor and city council is February 28th, 2023. It's quickly creeping up. Sanchez will run on a platform that centers on clean air, equitable education, walkable and accessible communities, affordable housing, sustainable and resilient workforce development, and collective community safety, he said Thursday. He created his campaign committee August 3rd. Sanchez participated in a hunger strike in February and March of 2021, and we covered that protest. That's when I first joined you guys. And Chicago Corner, the General Iron protests, which was attended by several of those that were participating in the hunger strike. Calling on the city's health department to deny the final permit needed for Lincoln Park metal scrapper General Iron to move its assets and most employees to Southside Recycling's new facility in Eastside. It was, quote, disgusting for local and state officials to consider bringing more heavy industry to the already polluted community amid a respiratory pandemic, Sanchez said at the time. 1 year after the hunger strike began, the city denied Southside Recycling's permit. Though the city ultimately declined to issue a permit, its driving role in the scrappers' planned move was discriminatory, as the plans would have benefited the mostly white Lincoln Park community at the expense of Black and Latino Southeast Siders, the federal housing officials said last month. It's time to enforce what environmental justice is through an ordinance to address the cumulative impact of pollution on Chicago's neighborhoods and reparations for residents affected by decades of health inequity, Sanchez said. He wants to discuss reparations more with his neighbors before outlining what they should look like, but ensuring their financial health, improving their health care access, and providing resources to help them maintain, quote, a well-balanced lifestyle and starting points, he said. Sanchez is also involved in community organizing with a focus on young people, having co-founded the Southeast Youth Alliance as well as the pandemic mutual aid group, the Southeast Response Collective. Quote, youth have a voice, and if you want people to be living here for the long term, you have to give them ownership in the community, he said. Sanchez voiced support for the students and faculty who have demanded green, carbon-neutral buildings for George Washington Elementary and high schools. Improved facilities are just one step toward ensuring equitable education, he said. Students need resources to not only learn the minimum, but to ensure they have successful careers in different types of areas, Sanchez said. We can build a sustainable economy with the homegrown talent we have here. Sanchez is the first challenger to declare his candidacy for the far South Side ward, which includes parts of South Chicago, East Side, South Deering, and Hegewisch. Sadlowski Garza confirmed to Block Club on Thursday she will seek re-election. Her campaign committee raised $92,000 from April through June and has just over $155,000 in available funds. I'm just getting started, Sadlowski Garza said.
Yeah, you know what that is. That's Oreo telling you it's 10 p.m.
Is it? Oh, and we're having so much fun. We're almost at the end. Sorry. Yeah, and he wants attention.
Like, dude, is this live stream still on? It's like, are you just talking to the screen now? You guys should have been done at like 8:30.
But look, we've got a lot of people still watching, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, we're almost at the tail. We're almost at the home stretch, guys. This is
I was like, wait, it's 10? How did we do that?
My, how the time flies when you're having fun. Sadlowski Garza chairs the City Council's Workforce Development Committee. She touted the committee's passage of right to return to work, anti-retaliation, and fair work week ordinances, as well as her own co-sponsorship of a compromised clean air ordinance passed last year. There's more work to do, Sadlowski Garza said. I'm proud and humbled to serve the people of the 10th Ward and look forward to the next 4 years. Okay.
Or, you could retire and let this guy in.
Yeah, I think
he seems like a good move.
I think that this guy would manage to bring everything under control very handily, and I will support his candidacy. So, couple final stories in the tail end here, just some like little updates. I thought that this story was just hilarious, given all the other commentary we're making on CPD. Hey, the police will paint your catalytic converter hot pink and mark it with CPD to deter thieves as part of a pilot program. Like they wouldn't use a sandblaster to get the paint off the catalytic converters that they steal.
Jerry, they wouldn't even need to. Do you know how hot a catalytic converter can get?
No.
Catalytic converter could get like up to like 1,200 to 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit. If it it operates, its normal operation when it's not like when it's like just idling is like between 400 and 600 degrees Fahrenheit.
So are you saying that would evaporate the paint, or that would melt?
It would burn the paint right off.
Okay, well, thank you. Then you made the point that I didn't realize was there. I just think the idea of hot pink with CPD on it, like that's going to make any ounce of difference whatsoever to anybody that's going to like take the catalytic converter, disassemble it for all the rare metal parts, and melt it down for those reasons. So
can I share a graphic with you, Jerry?
Please do.
Okay, I'm gonna share this little tab here. This is a catalytic converter. It takes all the exhaust gases from a internal combustion engine, and it converts it to mostly harmless emissions. It gets rid of like 99% of the carbon monoxide. I think it converts a bunch of like nitrogen and stuff. But it has these expensive metals called palladium and rhodium, and that's why they're trying to steal your catalytic converter. And these things, you can maybe get some people to install like a steel cage around your catalytic converter, and that'll slow them down. But if they really want your catalytic converter, they're gonna take it.
Unless the police paint it hot pink.
Yeah, because
that'll
stop them. That'll stop them.
As reported by Mina Bloom, and thank you for that education on catalytic converters, because I wasn't aware of those details. But as catalytic converter thefts plague the city, police in the Logan Square and Wicker Park area are rolling out a program designed to deter thieves from swiping the coveted car parts. Residents of the Shakespeare 14th Police District can get their catalytic converters spray painted and marked at a police event 10 a.m. September 11th at Moose Elementary School's parking lot. The goal of the pilot program is
propaganda. That's the goal.
It's propaganda. They're doing something that they're really not doing anything. Is to cut down on catalytic converter thefts by making the parts less attractive to thieves and scrap dealers, said District Sergeant Mike Edens, who helped organize the program. We're trying to...
man, I can't be stealing this catalytic converter. It's pink.
It says
I only steal the blue ones and the metallic and the chrome ones.
They're gonna come after me after I take it apart because it's pink. The parts are now pink after we sandblast the paint off of it, or it naturally dissolves off from
the mineral spirits and maybe some steel wool, and that pink paint is gone in seconds. If it hasn't already burned off.
If someone's going to crawl under your car and go to the degree of taking your catalytic converter, which is complicated anyway, no matter how they cut it off, there's some effort. They're going to go the extra yard and scrape off that paint or figure out a way to get the paint off before they tear that thing apart and sell it for the rare metals. Basically what it goes down to.
Care.
We're trying to add a level of deterrence, Eden said. The idea of adding a marking is a way to make it more identifiable to catalytic converter thieves. If it's being transported to a metal yard or if they're stopped by police, they'll have a bright colored catalytic converter in their possession, like they're going to be stopping people. Just enough. All right.
You get these people saying, "Oh yeah, the police stop crime." Why don't you stop this crime? This would be a worthwhile use of your time. Track down those crews that are stealing everybody's catalytic converters and put them behind bars.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, enough of that story. One other update on a story that I previously reported, which, we want to end the show on a positive note. So I reported, I think 2 weeks ago, on these ghost signs that had showed up in Lakeview. A ghost sign is a sign from a previous era that shows up when buildings are taken down or sidings are taken off of buildings that are under renovation. Rare Lakeview ghost signs saved just days before demolition thanks to donations. And I think that we may have put up the link for the donations at the time. But really quickly, Colin Boyle of Black Club Chicago reports local sign painters rush to preserve the advertisements before their building is destroyed for development. They're collecting donations to safely store them. Preservationists were able to safely remove rare ghost signs that have brought people from across the country to a Lakeview building just days before it was set to be demolished. Chicago-based sign painters rallied and set up a fundraiser so they could rescue decades-old painted signs that were found on the building at 3609 North Ravenswood Avenue when its siding was removed in July. The building and its long-hidden ads were set to be destroyed as developers transform the property. But this week, the painters got on scaffolding and pried each nail from the nearly century-old wooden boards and gently took down the massive ads, as you can see in that picture. On Friday, as the team removed the 2-story tall shell ad from the building, they labeled the planks and stacked them in a truck. They'll be stored until a permanent home is found. And I could see these possibly ending up over at the Chicago Historical Society or the Museum of Science and Industry. Mm-hmm. They could, basically decorate blank walls by reconstructing the ghost signs up there from these older eras. More than 200 people have donated so far to find the ads a new home where they can be preserved. The campaign has raised more than $12,800, but it has a goal of $20,000. The money will be used for removing, moving, and storing the ads. It's been overwhelming. Said Kelsey McClellan, the sign painter who started the GoFundMe. We're just incredibly grateful and thankful of people just being interested in supporting. We wouldn't have been able to do this without them. So good on you, Chicago residents and neighbors that helped their effort to save these ghost signs from earlier eras that I find fascinating as they relate to architecture and the city's older character.
Yeah, I mean, just like that Shell Oil sign. It's
Look at that.
It's history.
Yeah.
You know?
Very, very cool. All right.
They could set up a whole wing in the Art Institute of Chicago just with ghost signs.
I think you're onto something there, Ed. I like that idea. The Art Institute would probably be the best. Well, the reason I think of science and industry is because these ghost signs are promoting previous businesses. In the case of Shell Oil, institutions that served America during the industrial age is what I was imagining. But I think the Art Institute's a great idea also. Finally, our last story, I want to invite our viewers here in Chicago. We have a summer event at 99 Perspectives that I know Kit would be promoting here if he were able to join us, but since he's not, I am. You can find the link for tickets at Eventbrite, and let me tell you a little bit about the event. This is where you can meet us, spend time with us, enjoy some pizza, although it's not the grade that Ed prepares. It's usually Costco thin crust. But we got drinks, we got food. It's a great opportunity for all of you to come join us, see the studio where Hardlands Media broadcasts from, as well as the Can TV Chicago Corner Show. It will be taking place Sunday, August 21st at 6 p.m. through 12 a.m. midnight. So if you want to come join us at the studio, August 21st, I put the link in the chat to our Eventbrite ticketing link where you can get tickets to come join us at 99 Perspectives. Keep the summer going in August at 99 Perspective Studios. If you work in social media and want to expand your YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, promote your business, or just meet people to collaborate with, this is your event. Come see our live stream production studio. We invite everyone to keep the summer going. We're at 346 North Justine Street, Suite 502. When you arrive, dial the number on the 99 Perspectives flyer and we'll let you in. You can check out the website at 99perspectives.tv. This is a networking event open to all. You will need a ticket, though, because there is a limited amount of invitations available. So, yeah, keep the summer going. Yes, Miguel, that's what we're doing here. Sorry you can't make it, Kathy. Miguel brings out the naughty side of me. Yeah. So that's the final bit of news I have at the tail end of the show here. Ed, anything you want to share before we close up the show for the weekend?
What do we share?
Aside from that,
I just briefly I wanted to mention I had not been watching baseball at all this year, but I tuned in for that Field of Dreams game yesterday.
Oh, nice!
And they had a virtual hologram Harry Carey singing the seventh inning stretch.
Oh wait, they had a what? A virtual Harry Carey?
Yeah, and I mean, well, I'm not exactly sure how, but it's probably going to give me nightmares.
So okay, so you have to give me some. So how did this work? When you say,
I could load up the video and play some of it. The problem is we'll probably get a DMCA.
Why was there music, copyrighted music?
Well, he's singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." And
yeah, but if it's his, I think that the copyright strikes come from us running a piece of music that's pre-recorded off of a CD. I don't think if it's him singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" unless it exists on an album.
I would imagine Fox would probably sue us, but I could probably see if I can pull up.
Well, I will if in the tail end.
I managed to record some off of the screen, and let me see if I can get my thing to cooperate here. Hold on a second.
Well, if we get a copyright strike, I will do a fair use appeal, as I always do, and then the strikes get lifted. It's news.
Hold on.
They can't.
Okay. Well, yeah, it was. Well, It was a thing that happened on TV. All right, hold on a minute. That was a thing that happened. I keep hitting the wrong buttons. Hold on. Stand by.
Stand by, everybody.
Stand by for news.
Can you turn up?
That's as loud as I can go. Sorry.
So they were broadcasting a virtual reality version of him on a screen?
They had him. Check it out. They got him. You see my mouse pointer.
Oh, I see. Okay, so there's the booth.
Right here.
Yeah.
They got a hologram of Harry Carey in a booth.
Okay.
That everybody at the Field of Dreams is seeing. And it's a virtual version of Harry.
Okay, so keep playing it. It's not that bad.
Let's see if we get another close-up of his face here. Yeah, so I don't know.
It wasn't as scary as you were preparing me for.
It was that opening part here. Let me back up here really quick so you can see we got the area.
Yeah. It's an idealized younger Harry Carey before all the booze and hot dogs took a toll.
Yeah, they could have spent an extra 5 minutes on his facial features here.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so
I applaud their effort there. Harry is a much missed Chicago institution. Who was it that was on Saturday Night Live that used to imitate him all the time? It was Will Ferrell, wasn't it?
Will Ferrell.
Oh my God, his routines were the best. Kathy asked about Jack Brickhouse. I don't know. All right, so you know what I'm looking forward to on Monday? Final episode. You're going to say, why is Marvel Studios up there? I came across this video on YouTube.
Episode.
This constantly makes me laugh when I play this video. So, when when fans routinely attend these comic book conventions, they see the trailers for Marvel Studio shows. And so someone decided to subvert expectations with this little video, which represents my excitement for this Monday. The final episode of Better Call Saul.
No spoilers. I think I'm like 2 seasons behind.
No, you got to catch up. It's awesome.
I don't have the AMC network currently.
Ed, you have a high-speed internet connection?
Yeah.
That's what the Pirate Bay is for.
Yeah, I don't do that no more. I mean, ever.
Ever? I didn't admit to doing it either. I just said that's what it's for.
Yeah, I can't.
Because I pay for streaming services. I just can't pay for all of them.
Plus, I gotta be a fine, upstanding supporter of the AMC entertainment system and network.
AMC network has no affiliation with AMC theaters, so you could.
Okay, but I just don't want to take chances, though.
So Kathy says it's on Netflix. I think the previous seasons are on Netflix, though, Kathy.
I can get last season.
Yeah,
but I don't remember if I watched last season, and then I wanted to wait until the final season was around so I could binge watch the whole thing.
It's getting good. I got to tell you, I was big into Ozark. My brother recommended Ozark to me, which held up very, very well until that last season and that final episode, which was utter dog shit. And, I don't know what Jason Bateman was thinking, producing and supervising the ending for Ozark and approving that script. But Better Call Saul will not disappoint. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be as fine an ending to the series as, and I don't know what's going to happen. But Breaking Bad, another fine.
No, I like Better Call Saul. I just, when I cut the cord, I didn't have cable anymore, and so it wasn't easy to watch it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely when I get access to that again with my disposable income that I don't currently have, I will definitely be binge watching some Better Call Saul. Until then, ladies and gentlemen,
Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
Yeah, you saw I put that there just as you requested.
See, doesn't it work better that way?
Yeah, it does. Works well at the end there. All right, listen, Ed, thanks for joining me tonight. I will be returning next Friday night. Kira, I will probably be returning next Tuesday, joining Ed and Kira here for the Tuesday night show after my hosting duties or my co-hosting duties over at Hardlands Media on the national news circuit. It's a pleasure to be back. I'm so glad to see so many familiar faces returning in the chat, participating in the show, sharing stories as Kathy did regarding the mental health initiative with the police departments. Anything else to add, Ed?
Nothing else to add, but I am excited that you'll be rejoining us on Tuesday.
Yes!
Yeah, I missed you guys this past Tuesday, but I had some business I had to take care of. And I also did that interview with Alderman Sicjo Lopez at the station that kind of threw me off schedule. But I love spending Tuesdays with you and Kira, so I don't expect anything will circumvent that. Ed, thank you again for joining this evening. And to everybody else out there in Chicago, thanks again for joining us tonight. I really appreciate your support. I appreciate all of your contributions to the live chat. And as we go into this weekend, please make sure to watch out for each other. Stay safe, be vigilant, take care of each other. And remember, if it's happening on the streets, you will hear about it here on Chicago Corner. So please stay safe, everyone.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.